What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty. Join my Discord if you want to chat and share your thoughts, the link is in the description. 9C Chapter 226, Preparation 4. After a while they reacted. Then Hitsugaya Dashiro looked at Ichigo and said, could it be that Lord Kurosaki can improve our strength? Hearing Hitsugaya Dashiro's words, Matsumoto Rangaku also looked at Ichigo in disbelief. And Ichigo saw the faces of both of them in his eyes, and then Ichigo said, I can improve, do you want to try it? Hearing this, Hitsugaya Dashiro was going to refuse, but Matsumoto Rangaku said directly, how to improve? Hearing this, Hitsugaya Dashiro also waited for Ichigo's answer. And Ichigo directly used Shunpo to come to Matsumoto Rangaku's side, and then reached out to her and smashed the fragments into Matsumoto Rangaku's body. Seeing this scene, Hitsugaya Dashiro hurriedly came to Ichigo, afraid that Ichigo would attack Matsumoto Rangaku, so he was very vigilant. But his worries were superfluous, and Ichigo wouldn't have to bother with them if he wanted to. Hitsugaya Dashiro was surprised that Matsumoto Rangaku had a captain-level Ryotsu emerging from Matsumoto Rangaku after fusing the fragments. When Matsumoto Rangaku fused the fragments repaired Matsumoto Rangaku's soul that was originally injured by Aizen. 570 This reminds Matsumoto Rangaku of many things, especially when Aizen broke his soul, almost died, and was rescued by Ichimaru Jin. Matsumoto Rangaku was very sad when he thought about it, but he returned to his original state immediately. Although both Ichigo and Yoruichi saw the change in Matsumoto Rangaku's expression, they didn't want to speak out, so they didn't say it. Advertisement and Hitsugaya Dashiro didn't notice the change in Matsumoto Rangaku's expression at all, but looked at Matsumoto Rangaku's appearance in amazement after improving his strength. Hitsugaya Dashiro said, Rangaku, how do you feel now? Then he gave her a worried look. Matsumoto Rangaku also took Hitsugaya Dashiro's worries into his eyes, so he said to Hitsugaya Dashiro, I am very good now, very good, and I think Bankai will not take long to learn. 35. Hitsugaya Dashiro is very happy to hear this, because he knows that Bankai has always been a wound in Matsumoto Rangaku's heart, and even he started to be a Shinigami behind Matsumoto Rangaku, and now he has surpassed her and became a Shiazur captain, so Matsumoto Rangaku doesn't care on the surface, but he still cares a lot in his heart. Then Hitsugaya Dashiro thanked Ichigo and said, Thank you so much, Your Excellency Kurosaki. Matsumoto Rangaku also thanked Ichigo. Kurosaki-sama, thank you, I really don't know how to express my gratitude, but I still want to thank you for letting me break through the shackles. Hearing this, Ichigo also smiled and said, It's nothing, it's just a trivial thing. After nodding at Matsumoto Rangaku, he continued to Hitsugaya Dashiro, Are you going to improve? This time Hitsugaya Dashiro nodded at Ichigo without hesitation at all. Then Ichigo also threw some fragments to Hitsugaya Dashiro and entered his body. Afterwards, like Matsumoto Rangaku, he exuded a halo. Hitsugaya Dashiro's strength also increased rapidly, and he directly broke through to the level of the captain. At this time, he could already use the full Hiranmaru Bankai. Hitsugaya Dashiro in the original book also used full Bankai when he was fighting the Star Crusade, didn't he? So for Hitsugaya Dashiro, this time the improvement is huge. CGBE, he can now fully utilize the strength of Zanpakuto, the strongest ice and snow type. And Ichigo, after raising the power of Hitsugaya Dashiro, left without talking to them at all. Advertisement When Hitsugaya Dashiro was about to thank Ichigo after recovering, seeing that they were gone, he asked Matsumoto Rangaku. Rangaku, did you see Lord Kurosaki when they left? And Matsumoto Rangaku also said that he didn't know and shook his head. And after knowing it, Hitsugaya Dashiro said helplessly, Then only next time you see them, thank them. Matsumoto Rangaku said, Captain, I don't think Lord Kurosaki will care about you. Hearing this, Hitsugaya Dashiro was very annoyed, but who is Matsumoto Rangaku's strength has improved now, and his skills have improved a lot, and he actually escaped under Hitsugaya Dashiro's eyelids. Then Hitsugaya Dashiro also chased after Matsumoto Rangaku. And Ichigo and Yoruichi went to Urahara Kazuki after coming out of Inoue Orihime's house, because Urahara Kazuki's invention was needed to go to Soul Society. In fact, Ichigo and Yoruichi can reach the Soul Society with their own strengths, but they both want to fight in the world. Of course, this idea came to Ichigo because I saw that Aizen killed Kutu in the original book and thought it was pretty cool, so Ichigo wants to try it now. And after Ichigo and Yoruichi's current strengths have opened up the black hole, even if they go to the realm, the probability of encountering a thorn is very low. But the invention of Urahara Kazuki, in the original book, Ichigo and the others have a higher chance of encountering a thorn, so Ichigo and Yoruichi also want to try their luck. Hope you can run into a stunt and kill it, but soon Ichigo remembered the story again, which is the story of Miss Rosary. So Ichigo decided to take a look and see if there was any in the Kutu, and if there wasn't, then just kill the Kutu. If there is, please wait. Because Ichigo is also looking forward to seeing Akane Shizuku, because what happened to her is also something Ichigo regrets after seeing it in the original book. So of course it won't let the original thing happen now. Chapter 227, Preparation 5 When he arrived at Urahara Kazuki's house, Urahara Kazuki had already felt Ichigo and Yoruichi's Ryotsu, so he went out to greet him. Urahara Kazuki looked at Ichigo and said, I wonder what happened to Mr. Kurosaki coming to the shop. He looked at Ichigo and Yoruichi in confusion. And Ichigo said indifferently to Urahara Kazuki, use your machine and go to Soul Society. Hearing this, Urahara Kazuki nodded and said, of course you can. He made a gesture of invitation to Ichigo, and then continued. Come on, let's go here. Then he led Ichigo and Yo in. After entering, I also saw 3 people, Tessai Tsukabishi, Sumiya Yu and Hanakari Jinda. After seeing them, they also said hello to Ichigo, and then they all started their own business. And Tessai Tsukabishi followed suit. When I came to the place where I first practiced, Ichigo also missed it very much and said, it has been more than 10 years, and it has passed so quickly. After hearing this, Urahara Kazuki said, that's right, Mr. Kurosaki was still a child at that time. And Yoruichi also said, that's right, I didn't expect that I would fall in love with that child. Hearing Urahara Kazuki and Yoruichi's words, Ichigo misses those times very much, but Ichigo immediately said to Urahara Kazuki. Okay, don't talk about useless things, I have other things besides going to the Soul Society this time. Tell you something. Hearing this, Urahara Kazuki looked at Ichigo very curiously, and Ichigo continued. It is Aizen who is coming to the world. Hearing this, Urahara Kazuki became serious, because Aizen made Urahara Kazuki what he is now, so Urahara Kazuki hated Aizen very much. Urahara Kazuki said, when? At this time, Yoruichi continued. It should be 3 days later, and I also contacted the people of Soul Society. Hearing this, Urahara Kazuki didn't refute it, because there was nothing to invite the Soul Society. Advertisement and Urahara Kazuki continued to say to Ichigo. Okay, is there anything I need to prepare? He looked at Ichigo seriously. Ichigo looked at it and said, no, I just want you to take a look at the world, because I can't guarantee that he won't come earlier. Hearing this, Urahara Kazuki also nodded. Ichigo is a human being, not a god. It is impossible that Master Aizen thought so Urahara Kazuki didn't say anything. Ichigo continued, before I go to Soul Society, let's give you 2 a boost. Before Urahara Kazuki could say anything, he shot pieces into their bodies. Then their strength began to increase. They are not unfamiliar with this at all, because they have been improved by Ichigo before, so they all know it. After that, their strength has been amazingly improved, and even the quality of Ryatsu has been improved by a few notches. Soon the 2 of them came out of the enjoyment of improving their strength, and seeing Ichigo watching them, they thanked Ichigo very gratefully. And Ichigo said directly to Urahara Kazuki. Okay, let's not talk about some things, let's open the door now. 9. Hearing this, Urahara Kazuki was very helpless, but he started to do it according to Ichigo's idea. Soon Urahara Kazuki finished the gate and said to Ichigo, it's alright, Mr. Kurosaki. He was startled when Ichigo and Yoruichi appeared in front of him in an instant. This made Urahara Kazuki understand that even though he and Tessai Tsukabishi had entered the super captain level now, he still did not see the strength of Ichigo and Yoruichi, which made Urahara Kazuki very frustrated. Ask for flowers. But he recovered immediately, because he knew that he was a businessman, so it was useless to think that a businessman had such a powerful strength. Then Ichigo and Yoruichi went right in when Urahara Kazuki was about to say something. Seeing this scene made Urahara Kazuki even more speechless, but he was not angry, because he knew that Ichigo is such a character, and Yoruichi should have been with Ichigo for a long time, so he also has this character. Point 0 Of course this is Urahara Kazuki's guess, and he is not very sure. Advertisement. While Ichigo took a look at the attributes of Urahara Kazuki and Tessai Tsukabishi while leaving, he thought they were about the same. Name: Urahara Kazuki S*X. Male age: 158. Spouse: none. Potential: Super Captain Ryatsu. Super Captain, 22. Zanpakuto. Bankai. Of course, this is Ichigo's idea, because Ichigo doesn't know how strong Aizen has become, so this is just speculation. S*X. Male name: Tessai Tsukabishi. Seeing their strength, Ichigo thinks they are enough now, and the combined Soul Society and Kamen Legion can crush Hōgyoku Mundo. Potential: Super Captain. Spouse: none. Ryatsu. Super Captain, 20. Level 1. Age: 165. Zanpakuto. None. Chapter 228. Preparation 6. Then, after Ichigo and Yoruichi entered the piercing gate, they originally wanted to try their luck to see if they could meet Yutu. So I walked with Yoruichi in the direction of Soul Society while leisurely thinking about it. And Yoruichi hugged Ichigo's arm and said, why do you want to touch Yutu? 35. Hearing this, Ichigo casually said to Yoruichi, I just want to see how powerful Yutu is. Hearing this, Yoruichi was stunned for a while, but after thinking about the reason, he quietly held Ichigo's hand and walked with him. They both reached the entrance to Soul Society, but Kutu didn't come out, much to Ichigo's disappointment. But this is the 573. That can't be met, so Ichigo is relieved. He picked up Yoruichi and said, let's enter the Soul Society. After that, he stepped into the door of the Soul Society. Then a door suddenly appeared on Soul Society Rukongai, and a man and a woman came out from the door. The man has orange hair, and the woman has this long purple hair. And the man came out with Yoruichi in a princess hug. Ichigo hugged Yoruichi Shunpo and walked away before anyone noticed. Then Ichigo and the others rushed towards Jinglingding because they wanted to see their situation. Then they entered the jingling ting unknowingly. Afterwards, the two of them passed through the 4th division, so Yoruichi suggested to Ichigo to come down and see the strength of Uno Hanaru, which made Ichigo have to agree. So they went directly to the 4th division's quarters. After feeling the ryotsu of the egg flower, they walked directly there. Of course, they were not discovered by others at all. Advertisement. Then Ichigo and Yoruichi came to a room, which looked very elegant, and the egg is sitting there making tea and drinking. And she was surprised to see Ichigo and Yoruichi coming, because she didn't even notice them coming. But soon she calmed down and said, "I'm really surprised that Kurosaki-sama will come to the house." She looked at Ichigo with very surprised and interested eyes. Hearing this, Ichigo also smiled and said, "I just have a look." After finishing speaking, Yoruichi said to Eggflower, "Captain Eggflower, you can't be interested in Ichigo. He is mine." After speaking, he held Ichigo's hand in order to demonstrate to her. And Egg Jawali was very helpless after seeing this scene. Because although she is a little curious and fond of Ichigo now, it doesn't mean that Ujiwali likes Ichigo. And Ujiwali said dangerously to Yoruichi, "Yoruichi, do you know what you said just now?" As he said, he felt this black air floating around Ujiwali's body. Yoruichi used to be very afraid, but now it is different, and he is not afraid of the appearance of Uno Hanaru at all. Seeing that his appearance did not scare Yoruichi, Uno Hanari gave up on this. Instead, he turned back to Ichigo and said, "Then what's the matter with Kurosaki-sama leaving?" Before he could answer, Yoruichi said, "I just came to see you. Of course, I recommend Ichigo to come here." After hearing Yoruichi's look at Yoruichi, she ignored her and continued to look at Ichigo, waiting for Ichigo's answer. This made Yoruichi very angry, so he stared at Kaoru Yoruichi, who didn't care about Yoruichi at all. And Ichigo saw that Yoruichi and Unohana were not getting along very well, so he said to Uhana, "Yoruichi, you're right." After hearing this, Walleye of Egg also nodded and continued to say to Ichigo, "Would you like to sit down and have a cup of tea?" Advertisement. Hearing this, Yoruichi was going to refuse, but saw Ichigo nodded and sat down. This made Yoruichi very dissatisfied, but he held back and sat down next to Ichigo without having a seizure. Tea brewing techniques include ironing, setting tea, warming cup, high brewing, smelling, tasting tea, tea amount, tea water and brewing time. Of course, Ichigo has such a high-level knowledge of brewing, but Ichigo still likes tea. And the technique of Egg Nowali is very skilled and sophisticated, which makes Ichigo feel that Egg Nowali's tea is very good. But I don't know if it's good or not. And Yoruichi saw that the egg of the flower was like a good wife and a good mother, which made Yoruichi very uncomfortable. Seeing that Ichigo kept looking at the egg no Hanaru made Yoruichi jealous even more. So he pinched Ichigo's waist. Of course, Ichigo didn't look at Kazuoka at all, just the way she made tea, but Yoruichi didn't think so, which made Ichigo speechless. Of course, Ichigo is also not interested in Unohana, because in the original book, although he likes Unohana, it's not yet to the level of love. Then he gave Ichigo and Yoruichi a, "Please," gesture after he finished making tea 1.4. Ichigo picked up the tea and tasted it himself. After tasting it, "I think this tea is very good." When Yoruichi saw Ichigo's action, she also picked up the tea in front of her and drank it. She thought the tea was very good, so she tasted it like Ichigo. Of course, Ichigo is now thinking, "Yoruichi, you really don't give me face. I have to teach me a lesson tonight." And Yoruichi suddenly felt a little uneasy, and then she looked at Ichigo, and Ichigo was looking at her, and Yoruichi saw that Ichigo was a little angry in Ichigo's eyes, so she knew that the knight must be exhausted. Chapter 229. Preparation 7. And after Ichigo and Yoruichi had finished tasting the tea, Egg no Hanaru asked Ichigo, "What's the matter?" Since Ichigo came to the Soul Society just after speaking to the headmaster of Yamamoto Uenlaojai, it should be because the captains of the Soul Society have not been notified yet. When Ichigo was about to say something, "So Captain, please hurry to the first team to assemble when you hear the announcement, there's an emergency meeting." "So Captain, when you hear the announcement, please hurry to the first team to gather, there's an emergency meeting." "So Captain, please hurry to the first team to assemble when you hear the announcement, there's an emergency meeting." Hearing that, Kaoru Kono said apologetically to Ichigo, "Your Excellency Kurosaki, I'm going to a meeting now, so I'm sorry I don't have time to entertain you." Hearing this, Ichigo also said indifferently, "It's okay, you are busy." Hearing this, Egg Jawali gave Yi-26 a look apologetically and went out. Yoruichi threw himself into Ichigo's arms and said, "Did you like Captain Eggflower?" Hearing this, Ichigo said speechlessly, "How is it possible? No way." Hearing this, Yoruichi nodded reassuringly, because she knew, Ichigo would never lie to herself. So Yoruichi kissed Ichigo and said, "Then this is a reward for you." After the kiss, he got up and walked outside. Advertisement. When Ichigo saw it, he shook his head helplessly, got up and followed her out. "When I went out, I saw that there was no one there at all. This is probably because the 4th division doesn't have many injured Shinigami anymore." When Yoruichi saw it, he said to Ichigo, "Ichigo, there is no one at all now, I'm so lucky." And Ichigo said, "It's probably because Soul Society doesn't have Shinigami injured, or maybe it's because of something else." Hearing this, Yoruichi also nodded, because she didn't believe that there was no one in such a big team building. Just as she was thinking so, a figure appeared. Seeing someone coming, Ichigo grabbed Yoruichi when Yoruichi was about to leave Shunpo. Yoruichi was very puzzled when he saw Ichigo's actions, but when he saw the figure of that person, Yoruichi was relieved. The person here is Rukia Kuchiki. Rukia Kuchiki was originally being treated in Division 4 because Arisawa Tatsuki turned into Shinigami and took away Rukia Kuchiki's Ryotsu to restore Ryotsu. After I recovered my Ryotsu after the treatment, I wanted to thank no Hanaru. By the way, because of Aizen's incident, I felt that my strength was too weak, so I came to ask how to become stronger. Because no Hana is a female Shinigami captain. But after hearing the notice, I knew that I couldn't see Uziwali now, so I wanted to go to Uziwali to wait for her. So she met Ichigo and Yoruichi while she was walking there. When Rukia Kuchiki saw the two people standing there, she was very surprised and said, "It's Lord Kurosaki and Lord Shihouin." After speaking, he came to Yoruichi, and Yoruichi said to her, "What is little Rukia doing here?" Hearing this, Rukia Kuchiki answered quickly. After hearing Rukia Kuchiki's answer, Yoruichi smiled and said, "So that's how it is. How about I help you improve your strength?" Advertisement. Hearing this, Rukia Kuchiki was surprised, so she was stunned. When Yoruichi saw that Rukia Kuchiki didn't speak, he pretended to be sad and said, "Ah, it really makes me sad." He pretended to sob twice. And Rukia Kuchiki took this as real and quickly explained, "No, it's not." Before Rukia Kuchiki could say anything, she was dumbfounded. Because Yoruichi returned to her original state after hearing her words, which made Rukia Kuchiki know that she had been deceived, so her face was very bad. Seeing this, Yoruichi snorted and said, "Okay, don't be angry, I'll make amends for you now." Then he smashed into pieces at Rukia Kuchiki. So feel Rukia Kuchiki Ryotsu's captain level Shinigami are coming towards her, of which Byakuya Kuchiki is the fastest. Because he felt it was Rukia Kuchiki's Ryotsu, he hurried to see what was going on. Of course, because of Ichigo 587's butterfly effect, everyone in the Shinigami world has improved, and so have all the people in Soul Society. Soon Rukia Kuchiki's strength surged, but because Rukia Kuchiki didn't have a good master to improve his own strength, so Shinigami felt the surge of Rukia Kuchiki's Ryotsu, and those below the captain level were suppressed, on the ground. Yoruichi said to Ichigo as her strength increased, "Okay, let's go now." While Rukia Kuchiki is still building up there, Ryotsu is surging. After hearing that, Ichigo nodded and pulled Yoruichi Shunpo away. Rukia Kuchiki's strength has also broken through to the level of captain, and this time Yoruichi has raised her strength to the level of captain, even if it is to express her apology before. Rukia Kuchiki was not afraid to see this haloed shard coming towards him, because if Yoruichi was going to kill himself, there would be no need for such trouble. The Ryotsu surged as the debris entered Rukia Kuchiki. Chapter 230, Preparation 8. And Ichigo and Yoruichi felt that so Captain Shinigami rushed towards here, so they hid. The first person to arrive was Byakuya Kuchiki, who came right away because he was not far from the 4th division. And seeing the growth of Rukia Kuchiki's Ryotsu, Byakuya Kuchiki looked at Rukia Kuchiki very worriedly, because he was afraid that such an increase would harm Rukia Kuchiki. Of course, Byakuya Kuchiki's worries are superfluous. This has no side effects at all, otherwise how could Ichigo and Yoruichi be used by others? And soon all the captains came over, and they were surprised to see Rukia Kuchiki's ever-improving Ryotsu. Because the current Rukia Kuchiki has risen to the level that most Shinigami captains of Soul Society can't match, only a few captains are stronger than her. There are Yamamoto Uenlaojai, Egg no Huali, Kyoraku Shunsui, Jashiro Yukitaki, and a few of them. Of course Hitsugaya Dashiro is powerful now, but he is still a little better than Rukia Kuchiki. Hitsugaya Dashiro's strength was raised to the 3rd rank by Ichigo, while Rukia Kuchiki's strength was raised to the 4th rank by Yoruichi. So Rukia Kuchiki is now stronger than Hitsugaya Dashiro. Of course, this is some compensation from Yoruichi to Rukia Kuchiki, because in the Aizen incident, Rukia Kuchiki was not rescued early in the morning, so Yoruichi would treat her like this. And Yamamoto Uenlaojai captain looked at Byakuya Kuchiki not far away and said, "Captain Kuchiki, what happened?" Hearing this, Byakuya Kuchiki directly Shunpo went to Yamamoto far in front of the captain of Liaojai and said, "Your Excellency, the captain, I didn't know when I first arrived." Hearing this, Yamamoto Uenlaojai, the captain nodded, and then continued to look at Rukia Kuchiki. Soon so the captain came to Yamamoto's remote Liaojai captain to watch Rukia Kuchiki. Seeing that all the captains are here, this made Byakuya Kuchiki a little nervous, because he was afraid that Rukia Kuchiki would be targeted by the captain of Yamamoto Uenlaojai. And soon Rukia Kuchiki's promotion ended, and then she opened her eyes and saw that all the captains were looking at her, which made her very scared. Advertisement. But she immediately started to look left and right again, because she wanted to look for Ichigo and Yoruichi, but she couldn't find them anywhere. And Yamamoto Uenlaojai, the captain directly said, "Rukia Kuchiki, what are you looking for?" Hearing this, Rukia Kuchiki knelt down to Captain Yamamoto Uenlaojai and said, "Your Excellency, Captain, I am looking for Your Excellency Kurosaki and Your Excellency Shihouin." Hearing this, the captain was all surprised, except for Egg Jawali, because the captain only knew that Ichigo and Yoruichi were coming, but no one else knew. Afterwards, all the captains started looking for Ichigo, but a little trace was found, which surprised all the captains, especially the captain of Yamamoto Yuanlaojai. Because Yamamoto Yuanlaojai's current strength has improved, and even his current strength can't find Ichigo and Yoruichi, which makes him even more afraid of Ichigo. And Ichigo and Yoruichi kept watching them in midair, and Yoruichi couldn't help laughing while watching. And this laughter made all the captains discover where Ichigo and Yoruichi were, so they all looked up to the place where the laughter came from. They happened to see Ichigo holding Yoruichi, and Yoruichi looked at them amusedly in Ichigo's arms. After seeing Ichigo, Captain Yamamoto said, "Kurosaki, what are you doing here at Soul Society?" And when Ichigo was about to say something, Yoruichi said, "I just came here to have a look. What's wrong, old man Yamamoto?" Hearing Yoruichi's words, except for Yoruichi, Kyoraku Shunsui, and Jashiro Yukitaki, everyone looked at Yoruichi in horror because they were afraid that Yamamoto Yuanlaojai would be angry. But Yamamoto Yuanlaojai's chief captain didn't get angry at all and said, "Shihouin's kid, you are still so rude." Here Yoruichi's, here. And Yamamoto Yuan Liaojai, the captain, took a look at Ichigo and said to the captains, "Okay, let's go to the first team for a meeting." After saying that, Yamamoto Yuan Liaojai used Shunpo to leave. Advertisement. After hearing this, the captain nodded, and Shunpo left one by one. And finally, when Byakuya Kuchiki left, he looked at Ichigo and said, "Thank you, Your Excellency Kurosaki." After saying that, he followed. And Yoruichi got angry when he heard Byakuya Kuchiki's words. Because Yoruichi helped Rukia Kuchiki improve his strength, why should I thank Ichigo? This made Yoruichi angry. And Ichigo saw this scene. Li Qianzhao was very funny and touched Yoruichi's head. Rukia Kuchiki, who was next to him, looked at Yoruichi with admiration, which made Ichigo a little strange. Why does Rukia Kuchiki look at Yoruichi with envy? This makes Ichigo very strange. He thought to himself that Rukia Kuchiki had fallen in love with him. Of course it was just a guess and not certain. Then Ichigo checked her strength. Name: Rukia Kuchiki. Gender: female. Age: 86. Spouse: none. Potential: super team captain. Ryotsu: captain, level 19, Zanpakuto, Soda no Shirayuki, Bankai. It's nice to see that Rukia Kuchiki has improved Yoruichi's strength now. Chapter 231. Preparation 9. And when all the captains left, and only Ichigo, Yoruichi, and Rukia Kuchiki were left, Rukia Kuchiki said to Yoruichi, "Thank you so much, Lord Shihouin," and bowed to Yoruichi. When Yoruichi saw it, he also smiled and said, "There's no need for this, aren't we friends anyway?" Hearing this, Rukia Kuchiki is very happy, because Yoruichi wants to be her friend. So I nodded and said, "Yeah, we're friends." Hearing this, Yoruichi said to Rukia Kuchiki, "We are all friends, so don't be so rusty, call me Yoruichi." Hearing this, Rukia Kuchiki also nodded and said, "Yoruichi." Sama was originally meant to say Yoruichi, but in the end, an adult was added. Hearing this, Yoruichi misses me a lot, because Smash B used to be called Yoruichi that way. This title made Yoruichi miss and sigh very much, but he recovered immediately, and because the broken bee is still calling him that, so Yoruichi also nodded to Rukia Kuchiki. After Rukia Kuchiki finished speaking, she was going to call Ichigo, but she didn't know how to call Ichigo, so she opened her mouth, but she didn't speak out. And Yoruichi saw her overwhelmed, so she said out loud, "Just call him Ichigo." Hearing this, Rukia Kuchiki was going to call Ichigo directly, but he couldn't say anything, which made Yoruichi very helpless. Really, let's call it by the original name, 39. Hearing this, Rukia Kuchiki also breathed a sigh of relief. Then Ichigo said to Yoruichi, "Okay, it's time for us to go." After saying that, Ichigo glanced at Rukia Kuchiki. And Yoruichi said to Rukia Kuchiki after hearing Ichigo's words, "Okay, now we have to go. Your strength has improved to this level, the next step depends on your own efforts," and touched Rukia Kuchiki's hair. Look. Advertisement. And Rukia Kuchiki was surprised when his hair was touched, CGBE, but he was relieved after thinking about some things about Yoruichi. After touching Rukia Kuchiki's head, Yoruichi soon came to Ichigo's side, and Ichigo took Yoruichi's hand and left Shunpo directly. Then Rukia Kuchiki felt a little uncomfortable when she saw that they were both gone. But she didn't know the reason herself, so she came to Uziwali's room with a very strange feeling to sit outside and wait for her to come back. On the other hand, Ichigo took Yoruichi to the outside of Jinglingding, because he had already understood the strength of Soul Society just now, so now it is useless to stay here, so he is ready to stroll around Rukongai, and then go back. And Yoruichi asked, "What are you doing here, Ichigo?" and hugged Ichigo's arm even harder. When Ichigo heard it, he said, "I just want to go to Rukongai and see if there will be something interesting." Hearing this, Yoruichi was speechless, because what interesting things will happen in Rukongai? Just when I was thinking about it, a figure appeared in front of here, and it was a very familiar person. Her appearance is gentle and peaceful, with long black hair that is parted in the middle. Because her collarbone is just below her, she is wearing a Death Tyrant outfit and fastened with a red tether to a light-colored belt around her waist. The person who came was Uziwali, the captain of the 4th Division. Yoruichi was very nervous when she saw the person who came here, because she thought it would be okay for her to come here. Of course, Yoruichi hopes that she has an official business, otherwise it means that she likes Ichigo a little. Do you want to be close to Ichigo? And Kaoru Kono said, excuse me, where's your excellency Kurosaki going? He glanced at Yoruichi as he spoke. This made Yoruichi very angry, because he felt that Uno Hana was robbing her for a man. Advertisement. So Yoruichi got angry and broke out his Ryatsu. Ordinary people can't feel Ryatsu at the Spirit King level, but Yoruichi is targeting Uno Hana, so Uhana was directly pressed down by this Ryatsu, and his knees were touching the ground. And the entire Soul Society was shrouded in the power of Yoruichi's Ryatsu, and even the people in the Lingwang Palace were overwhelmed by this power. Of course they can't feel this Ryatsu, because Super Captain and Ryatsu are watersheds, so they can't feel how big Yoruichi's Ryatsu is. But the few people in the Lingwang Palace have always stayed by the Lingwang's side, so they are the ones who know the most about this breath. Because of this, they were very surprised and worried, because another Spirit King level character was born, which made them not know what to do. Seeing this scene, Yoruichi also knew that Ichigo was making up for his self-willingness just now. And Uziwali saw these fragments, and originally wanted to ask what it was, but because of Yoruichi, she didn't have the strength to react at all, and the fragments entered her body directly. And when Ichigo saw Yoruichi released his Ryatsu, he said, okay, hurry up and put the Ryatsu away. Ichigo is very apologetic when he sees the current state of Kaoru. Since it was Yoruichi's fault, Ichigo wanted to make amends for her. And Egg Jawali's current appearance is very embarrassed, because she is the one who feels the power most directly, and her strength is only the third order super captain, so she is now in a panic. Seeing this scene, Ichigo was also very helpless. Then he walked in front of Egg Jihuali, and swung a lot of fragments at her, allowing the fragments to merge into Egg Jihuali's body. Because they don't know whether this powerhouse will bring harm to Soul Society, so they don't know what to do. Hearing this, Yoruichi also took back his Ryatsu and stuck his tongue out at Ichigo. Chapter 232. Preparation 10. As Eggflower Lie fused the fragments, Eggflower Lie immediately began to investigate his body. But she didn't notice anything abnormal, and suddenly a powerful force appeared in her body, which made Egg Jawali's strength break through and improved. After feeling this Ryatsu, Ajino Hinari knew what Rukia Kuchiki's power was all about. Because Uziwali is not the kind of person Rukia Kuchiki doesn't know how to control his own power, so he quickly controlled his own power without revealing it at all. Ichigo admired the scene a little, but it quickly returned to normalcy. And Uno Hana is very happy to feel his current strength, and then looked at Ichigo gratefully and said, I really don't know how to thank you, and looking at Ichigo's eyes are fiery. Yoruichi was very angry when he saw Uno Hanaru's fiery eyes and said, have you seen enough? 35 appeared between Ichigo and Uno Hanaru, and looked at Uno Hana Retsu with jealousy. After seeing Yoruichi, Egg no Hana Lai was not nervous, but looked at her calmly and said, a jealous woman is not lovable. Not to be outdone, she looked at Yoruichi. Yoruichi gave Ichigo a cryptic look when he heard Uno Hanaru's words, but immediately turned back to look at Uno Hana Retsu. But Yoruichi's eyes when he looked at Kazuo no Kun this time weren't as fierce as before. This made Yoruichi feel victorious, but Ichigo said, okay, Yoruichi, let's go, 33 said and walked in one direction. Hearing this, Yoruichi was also very happy, glanced at the egg flower, and immediately walked over to hug Ichigo's arm and walked together. But the egg flower Ryu immediately appeared in front of Ichigo and Yoruichi again, blocking their way. This behavior made Yoruichi angry directly, so she said to the egg flower, what, do you want to fight? Then she let go of Ichigo's arm. Advertisement and egg flower Lie immediately said, no, don't you think it's better to bring a guide? And Yu said directly, I am also a member of Soul Society, I can bring it. Hearing this, Uziwali was not angry, but said calmly, that was 100 years ago, and now you are no better than me. He looked at Yoruichi provocatively. This made Yoruichi very angry, but after all, Ichigo was there, so she didn't do anything. Instead, look at Ichigo, waiting for Ichigo's decision. And although Ichigo felt troublesome after hearing it, it's not a problem for the two of them to wander around now. And Ichigo said, okay. Hearing this, Yoruichi was very dissatisfied, and although the egg flower was still the same, the smile that flashed in his eyes made Yoruichi angry. But it was Ichigo's decision after all, so Yoruichi tacitly agreed. She thought, it's okay to have a light bulb anyway. Thinking about it, I acquiesced. But she immediately hugged Ichigo's arm, and then looked at Uno Hana Retsu ostentatiously, which made the thought of rivalry flash in Uno Hanaru's eyes. But an idea is an idea after all and cannot be taken as reality. She is also a little inferior because she is too old. The issue of age makes Ujiwali feel a little inferior, and then he feels that he is not worthy of Ichigo. Watching Egg Nihikali's mood getting lower and lower, which made Yoruichi, who didn't know the reason, puzzled at first, but immediately rejoiced. And Ichigo looked at her and said, don't think too much, just work hard, and then he glanced at the egg. Advertisement. For flowers. Hearing Ichigo's words, Yoruichi was very puzzled, but Yuru Hanaru understood what Ichigo meant, so he looked at Ichigo gratefully, and the love in his eyes surprised Ichigo. Of course, this sentence is just Ichigo's wake-up call to Uziwali. After all, The final ending of Uziwali in the original book made Ichigo very distressed, so I wanted to change the ending of Uziwali. Egg no Hanaru said to Ichigo. Thank you so much, Your Excellency Kurosaki, and bowed to Ichigo. Ichigo looked at her and said, no, just call me Ichigo later. Hearing this, Yoruichi was surprised, while Kazuoka was delighted. And Ichigo smiled and said, it's nothing, we two are not friends anyway. But Ichigo didn't say anything at all. Okay, we're friends anyway. Yoruichi didn't say anything because he was afraid that Ichigo would think she was a long-winded and troublesome woman. I was happy to hear the egg here, and although Yoruichi was a little dissatisfied, after hearing the word friend, he didn't make too much trouble about it. Yoruichi said to Ichigo, is it alright for her to be called like that? He asked and looked at Ichigo, wanting to see if Ichigo could see what he was thinking in his expression. Hearing this, Ujiwali was very happy and said, Ichigo, then I'll call you that from now on. And Egg no Huali said happily, can I call you that? He looked at Ichigo with confusion. Because no one in Soul Society directly calls Ichigo's name, not even the captain of Yamamoto Uenlaojai. Of course, the captain of Yamamoto Uenlaojai is called Ichigo. Kurosaki boy, so of course it's not his name. Hearing this, Ichigo nodded too, because he didn't think it was a fortune-telling at all. Chapter 233. Preparation 11. But Yoruichi was very nervous after hearing Ichigo's words next to her, because she felt that the relationship between Uno Hinari and Ichigo was better. This made Yoruichi feel a little worried, but he immediately recovered after thinking about his relationship with Ichigo. Yoruichi was also relieved because Ichigo couldn't have a good impression of Kazuki so soon. And after feeling Yoruichi's no longer tit-for-tat emotions, Ojawali understands why she doesn't treat herself like that anymore. However, Kaoru didn't take it to heart, and said to Ichigo, come here now. After saying, 590s? I took Ichigo and Yoruichi to a place to watch. It's not a shame that he's been in Soul Society all the time, and he knows better here than Yoruichi, who has been away from Soul Society for 100 years. And Yoruichi didn't say anything when he saw this scene, and said to the egg flower, you said it well. Hearing the egg flower lie said, no, you are too compliment, Yoruichi. And Yoruichi continued to say to her, since all the introductions are over, let's go back for a long time. The captain's job is very busy, isn't it? Then he stood up to the flower of the egg. After hearing this, Uno Hanalai didn't get angry, but looked at Yoruichi and said, even though that's true, our 4th division doesn't have that many duties. When I heard what Yoruichi had to say here, I heard someone call Ichigo. Your Excellency Kurosaki, you are here too. And Yoruichi and Uno Hinari turned to look at the person who came. The original Ichigo was Kiraku Shunsui, and with him was Jashiro Yukataki. And Ichigo and the others have now come to the door of a hotel, and it was said in the original book that Kiraku Shunsui and Jashiro Yukataki always return to a hotel in Rukongai to patronize. It turns out that Ichigo and the others are standing at the entrance of that hotel. While Kiraku Shunsui and the others came over, Kiraku Shunsui said to Ichigo, I didn't expect to meet you here, Lord Kurosaki. And Jashiro Yukataki also nodded to Ichigo and said, hi Kurosaki, hello. He also nodded to Yoruichi and Ajino Hinari. After Kiraku Shunsui finished speaking, he looked at Eggflower and said, Senior Eggflower, what are you doing here? After speaking, Jashiro Yukataki also looked at her curiously. Advertisement and Uziwali smiled at them and said, I'm just here to help Ichigo and the others as tour guides, why not? Hearing this, they shook their heads quickly, but I immediately thought to myself, to call your Lord Kurosaki's name directly, it seems that the relationship between Captain Eggflower and His Excellency Kurosaki is somewhat unusual. Thinking about it, I looked at Ichigo and Egg no Hanaru with curiosity. And Ichigo didn't show any expressions when he saw their eyes, and Ujiwali didn't show any expressions either. But Yoruichi got angry, so he said to them, go do your own thing, we are busy. Hearing this, Kiraku Shunsui and the others nodded to Ichigo and entered the hotel. And Ichigo looked at their properties when they both entered. Name: Kiraku Shunsui S*X. Male age: 2245 years old. Spouse: Nun potential: Super Captain Ryatsu, Super Captain, 22. Zanpakudo: Kaden Kyokotsu, Bankai, Keto, LVMAX level 12. Shunpo: LVMAX level 14 white hits, LVMAX 14 chopping, LVMAX 16. Advertisement combat experience, LVMAX 15 name, Jashiro Yukataki. S*X. Male age: 2231 years old. Spouse: Nun potential, Super Captain. Ryatsu: Super Captain, 22, Zanpakudo, Sobyo no Katowari, Bankai. Keto: LVMAX 14 white hits, LVMAX level 15. After seeing their strength, Ichigo is very helpless, because watching 1.4 has reached their age, which makes Ichigo very speechless, and he has such strength only the year before. Thankfully, Kiraku Shunsui and the others didn't know what Ichigo was thinking, otherwise they would have been very sad. Combat experience: LVMAX 15. Because according to Ichigo's understanding, the Shinigami of them seem to have no intention to cultivate because they did not have any threats in the previous year, so their strength is so weak. It is because of this that after the Invisible Empire came, they were beaten without any resistance at all. LVMAX 15 but Ichigo was right to say so. Shunpo. LVMAX level 12. Chapter 234. Preparation 12 And after the two of them went in, the egg flower Lai said to Ichigo. What are you going to do now, Ichigo? Ichigo thought about it after hearing it, and when he was about to say something, Yoruichi said, of course it's back to the world, right? 35 looked at Ichigo expectantly. Later, when Ichigo saw this scene, the corners of his mouth twitched slightly and he said, of course, that's exactly what I wanted to say. Yoruichi was very happy to hear this, and Kaoru didn't know what to do. Because Ichigo has returned to this world, then she will not be able to see the person who made her feel good. Therefore, Shinigami, a 1,000-year-old girl, was very confused like a young girl when she first encountered this situation. And Yoruichi's eyes when he saw Uziwali was like seeing the expression on his face after meeting Ichigo for the first time, which made Yoruichi even more vigilant. 26. So Yoruichi said to Eggflower Lai, Captain Eggflower, you finished shopping now, so please go back, there's still a lot of things to do in Soul Society, right? We'll take care of the things that come back to the world. Let's solve it, today. I really thank you for being our guide. As he said that, he ordered the expelled guests to the flower of the egg. After hearing this, Eggjawali said calmly, it's alright, these are all small things. Then he set his eyes on Ichigo and said to him, Ichigo, I should go to the world with you, yes. Hearing this, Yoruichi was stunned, while Ichigo was surprised, but his expression didn't change at all, it was still very flat. Ichigo said to her, anyway, we have to go back, by the way. He nodded to the egg flower. Hearing that Eggjawali was also very happy. At this time, Yoruichi came back to his senses and said loudly to the egg flower, you are going to the world too? Egg no Huali said calmly, because I have to deal with Aizen, I'll just go to the world to check it out. Then he gave Yoruichi a provocative look. Yoruichi was very angry after seeing this scene, and wanted to demonstrate against her, but thought that Ichigo was also here, so he gave up. And Ichigo didn't care what the two of them were thinking, but came to the air, waved at the void, and the void split. Advertisement seeing this scene, Ujiwali was very amazed, and Yoruichi was very proud to see her appearance, but thinking that Ujiwali would follow them all the time, made her dissatisfied. Then Yoruichi quickly came to Ichigo's side, and Egg no Hana Lai quickly put away his heart and Shunpo came to Ichigo's side, looked at Heiki and said, this ability is really convenient, 99. Hearing this, Yoruichi snorted and said, it's because of your lack of strength. Hearing Yoruichi's words, Uno Hanaritsu didn't refute her either. Instead, he looked at Ichigo quietly, which made Yoruichi feel as if he had hit cotton, and was very unhappy. And when Ichigo went in, I also checked the attributes of the egg of the flower. Name. Egg flower gender. Female age, 2,764 years old. Spouse. None potential. Super Captain Ryatsu. Super Captain, level 24. Zanpakuto. Minazuki, Bankai, Kido. LVMAX level 20. Shunpo. LVMAX level 20 White Hits. LVMAX level 20. Advertisement shopping. LVMAX 20 Combat Experience. LVMAX 20. Ichigo was amazed when he saw the properties of the flower of the egg. Because a woman can have so much perseverance to improve all the skills to the limit that human beings can improve, this makes Ichigo a little amazed. If not for the system, now Ichigo is at most the captain level powerhouse, and also you won't get the one you love. Immediately, Ichigo said to the two of them, okay, we're going. After speaking, Ichigo stepped in first. And after that, Yoruichi and Egg no Hana Lai also went in one after another. Moreover, the black cavity also closed itself after the flower of the egg went in. After the black chamber was closed, two figures appeared here, and these two people were Kyoraku Shunsui and Jashiro Yugataki. Kyoraku Shunsui said, I didn't expect that Senpei would tell Kurosaki-sama, and there was an expression that men could understand. Ichigo looked at the two of them and said helplessly, let's go back to my house first. Because Ichigo opens a space channel, he can come to this world very soon. Hearing this, Kaoruchi didn't get angry, but ignored Yoruichi and said to Ichigo, where are we going now? And Jashiro Yugataki also nodded 590 and said, okay, Chun Shui, let's tell teacher Yuan Laojai about the matter here. But after coming to this world, Wallai said in amazement, it's been a long time since I came to this world. The changes here are really big. Hearing Jashiro Yukataki's words, Kyoraku Shunsui also nodded. Then they both used Shunpo to head towards the first team. Hearing this, Yoruichi was very dissatisfied and said, you who never leave Soul Society, of course you can't know the changes in the world. 35 even complained to her. And Ichigo and the others came directly to the world. When Yoruichi pouted angrily when he saw Kaori of Eggs ignoring him. Chapter 235, The End of Preparation. After hearing Ichigo's words, neither of them refuted, and both nodded. Seeing this scene, Ichigo was also very happy, but it didn't leak on his face. He turned his back to the two of them and said, okay, let's go, 35 said and walked away. Yoruichi saw this scene and immediately walked to Ichigo's side, holding Ichigo's hand and he slowly walked up. After seeing the egg, Huali didn't know how to go, but immediately trotted behind Ichigo and Yoruichi, and then followed them slowly up. And after seeing something very novel, Eggflower asked Ichigo, "What are these, Ichigo?" And Ichigo didn't reject her, but explained it one by one. Yoruichi was very jealous when he saw this scene, but he was relieved when he thought about how close he and Ichigo were, and instead helped her to explain something when Uenohana asked questions. Yoruichi's transformation made Uenohana lie very puzzled, but she didn't think much about it. She thought she should have figured it out. And Ichigo felt very strange after seeing that Yoruichi was no longer so stingy and jealous, but after feeling Yoruichi's actions, he understood. Because Yoruichi held Ichigo's hand, he was getting harder and harder, which made him understand Yoruichi's thoughts. Then he walked to the door of the house. Seeing that the door was open, Ichigo knew that Kurosaki Shirley must have done it. Because only when she is excited to go out to play football, will she forget about closing the door when she goes out. After seeing Ichigo's house, Egg Noeli looked at it carefully and then took his eyes back. Advertisement. After thinking about it, Ichigo walked towards the house, and as soon as he came to the door, a person came out. And the man was very excited when he saw Ichigo, so he hurriedly ran towards Ichigo and called, "Brother." 35 said and rushed towards Ichigo. I was also very happy to see Ichigo coming, because it was his sister. Of course it would be nice to see someone you love. So Ichigo opened his arms and picked up Kurosaki Yuzu, and he nodded to her forehead and said, "Really, you can't do such a dangerous thing in the future." Although he was training her, the concern in his words could not be concealed. And Kurosaki Yuzu smiled and said, "It's okay. Anyway, I know my brother will catch me." He looked at Ichigo happily. And Ichigo smiled when he saw Kurosaki Yuzu's eyes, but it was a wry smile. Because Ichigo knew that she must not have listened, so she became helpless. Then Ichigo put Kurosaki Yuzu down and said, "Okay, there's a guest here, don't be so rude." Hearing this, Kurosaki Yuzu immediately discovered the existence of Uenohana, and everyone ignored the rest after seeing Ichigo just now. But after seeing this time, he immediately said to Eggjiwali, "I'm so sorry, I didn't notice you just now." After hearing this, Eggflower Lie smiled softly and said, "It's alright, I've been behind Ichigo, so it's normal that you didn't see me." Hearing this, Kurosaki Yuzu also said gratefully, "Thank you for your understanding." And when Eggjiwali wanted to say something, two people walked out of the house, a man and a woman, and they walked while talking. The woman said, "Yuzu, why haven't you come back for so long? Why don't you just close the door?" Advertisement. The man said, "Okay, alright, wife, Yuzu is probably just having fun, and it doesn't matter if the child is having fun." The woman retorted, "Then why didn't you say Ichigo? Ichigo didn't bother me once when I was a child, and he was so obedient and sensible." Hearing this, the man was speechless, and seeing that the man was speechless, the woman revealed a very happy expression. And when I heard the voice, Ichigo and Yoruichi knew who it was, and Ichigo Kareu guessed who it was. Kurosaki Yuzu ran straight in and said to the two of them, "Mom and Dad, brother is back." Hearing this, Kurosaki Masaki was stunned, and even Kurosaki Ishin was stunned. Originally, Kurosaki Masaki saw Kurosaki Yuzu running over and wanted to reprimand, but she was stunned when she heard her words, but she immediately regained her senses and walked outside. And Kurosaki Ishin also followed Kurosaki Masaki to the outside. And Kurosaki Masaki hugged Ichigo directly after seeing the person standing outside. Ichigo feels that he also owes Kurosaki Masaki a lot, because up to now he has not been able to accompany his parents well. Thinking of this, he felt that he would not run away from now on, and even if he ran away, he would have to take his family with him. Ichigo hugged Kurosaki Masaki and said, "Mom, I'm not going away now." Hearing that Kurosaki Masaki was very happy, and Kurosaki Ishin was very happy to hear Ichigo's words after he came out and said, "In the future, don't take care of everything by yourself, and give us some of it." Chapter 236. Homecoming. Hearing this, Ichigo was also very moved and said, "Got it, Mom and Dad." And Yoruichi interjected at this time, "I don't want to disturb you guys, but there are guests here." Hearing this, Kurosaki Masaki immediately let go of Ichigo and looked at the person who came. Kurosaki Masaki looked at Uenohana Retsu curiously and said, "May I ask who you are?" And Kurosaki Ishin was surprised to see the person coming, and Kurosaki Masaki saw Kurosaki Ishin's appearance and knew that Kurosaki Ishin must know her. So I asked Kurosaki Ishin, "Do you know me?" Hearing Kurosaki Masaki's question, Kurosaki Ishin responded, "This is a senior who used to work in a place." Hearing this, Kurosaki Masaki was very surprised to look at the flower of the egg, because Kurosaki Masaki knew Kurosaki Ishin's original job, so it was Shinigami who worked in the same place as him before. So Kurosaki Masaki was surprised that a Shinigami came to the house, let alone a Shinigami captain. At this time Uenohana Lee said, "It's been a long time, Shiba captain," and then looked at Kurosaki Masaki and said, 590, "The first time we met, please take care of me, Miss Kurosaki, I'm Uenohana," and said, still facing Kurosaki Masaki nodded. Kurosaki Masaki nodded when he heard Ovo Hanaritsu's words and said, "Please take care of me here as well." And Kurosaki Ishin said, "Indeed, it's been a long time since I saw you, Captain Eggflower," and said with a sigh. Kaoru Kono said to Kurosaki Ishin, Captain Shiba, are you doing well? After hearing that, Kurosaki Ishin was very proud and said, of course it's because I have a good son. Then he looked at Ichigo. And when Ichigo saw Kurosaki Ishin looking at him, he nodded at him. Egg no Hanalai was very surprised and said, I didn't think it was because of Ichigo. Then Ichigo is really talented. Advertisement. Hearing this, Kurosaki Masaki and Kurosaki Ishin were very happy, and even Kurosaki Yuzu was happy. Seeing them chatting with you one by one, Ichigo said, go in and talk about it. Hearing this, everyone nodded and agreed. Then Ichigo took Yoruichi's hand and entered together with Kurosaki Yuzu's hand. So after everyone came in, they sat on the wooden chairs in the yard and said some relaxed words. After they chatted here for half an hour, Kurosaki Shirley also came back, and came in with a football in his hand, saw a stranger and said hello. Hello, 55. Hearing this, Walleye also nodded and said, hello, you are Shirley, aren't you? Ichigo told me that. Kurosaki Shirley said, yes, do you know brother Ichigo? Egg Jawali looked at her and said, of course, we are still friends. Kurosaki Shirley didn't believe what he said, so he turned to Kurosaki Ishin. And Kurosaki Ishin nodded to Kurosaki Shirley. Of course, Kurosaki Shirley's actions were also in the eyes of Ujiwali, but she didn't say anything. Kurosaki Ishin said to Kurosaki Shirley, okay, let's go inside and say hi to your brother Ichigo. 9. Hearing this, Kurosaki Shirley was very excited and asked Kurosaki Ishin, Ichigo-san is back? Kurosaki Ishin nodded. CGBE. After that, Kurosaki Shirley jumped up with joy and said, it's really good, and ran towards the house after saying that. Advertisement. Seeing this scene, Kurosaki Ishin also smiled and said, really, like a boy. Eggflower Lie smiled secretly after hearing this. Seeing this, Kurosaki Ishin coughed, and then continued to talk about preparations with Uno Hana. And Ichigo went back to the house with Yoruichi, Kurosaki Masaki, Kurosaki Yuzu and started preparing dinner while Kurosaki Ishin and Uno Hanaritsu were talking about something. After entering, Kurosaki Masaki said, let me cook dinner. But Ichigo didn't let him say, let me come, mom, now you'd better watch TV and rest. When Kurosaki Masaki had something to say, Yoruichi continued. Okay, mom, let's just let the two of us did. You'd better watch TV for a while. We'll call you when we need your help. Hearing this, Kurosaki Masaki was no longer arguing, so he nodded and took Kurosaki Yuzu's hand and sat down to watch the TV. And Ichigo and Yoruichi, who came to the kitchen, looked at the dishes and said, let's do something a little more complicated. Yoruichi also nodded after hearing this, and then started to wash and cut vegetables. And while the two of them were cooking, Yoruichi asked, Ichigo, you don't really have any interest in Captain Eggflower, do you? When Ichigo heard it, he knew that Yoruichi was worried, and was afraid that Ichigo had a good impression of Hinaru of the egg. Ichigo smiled and said, of course not, what are you thinking about all day long with your little head? Then he poked Yoruichi's head. Yoruichi blushed when he heard it, and when Ichigo poked his finger, he was very shy and said, what, I'm not just scared, can't do it, he finally shouted. Seeing Yoruichi like this, Ichigo smiled and said, of course not, you look so cute now, I like it very much. Hearing this, Yoruichi became even more shy and immediately turned around and started his own business. And Ichigo smiled when he saw this scene. Chapter 237. Kurosaki Shirley is back. And while Ichigo and Yoruichi were cooking, Kurosaki Shirley came in. Kurosaki Masaki, who was watching TV in the living room, saw the person who came and said, I'm back, why are you back now? You Ichigo-san are back. And hearing Kurosaki Masaki's words, Kurosaki Yuzu also looked up at Kurosaki Shirley and said, Shirley, my brother is back, it's in the kitchen, you can take a look. Hearing this, Kurosaki Shirley changed his shoes and walked towards the kitchen. And in the kitchen Kurosaki Shirley asked Kurosaki Yuzu, Yuzu, how do you see me now? It's not messy. Hearing this Kurosaki Yuzu looked at Kurosaki Shirley and said, I feel good. When Kurosaki Shirley felt relieved and was about to enter, Kurosaki Masaki spoke. Look at the clothes you're wearing now, really don't hurry to change into clean clothes, Kurosaki Masaki said to Kurosaki Shirley. Hearing this, Kurosaki Shirley remembered that he had come back from playing football, so he ran to change his clothes immediately. Seeing this scene, Kurosaki Masaki smiled, then nodded to Kurosaki Yuzu's nose and said, really, I didn't even ask my sister to change her clothes. Hear Kurosaki Yuzu say, I didn't notice it. Hearing this, Kurosaki Masaki nodded to her forehead and continued watching TV. When Kurosaki Shirley went upstairs and went into the bathroom to take off his dirty clothes and then put on new clothes, he thought that he had sweated a lot playing football this afternoon, so he decided to take a shower in the bathroom. I didn't want Ichigo to see my bad side, so I took a shower. Advertisement. In Kurosaki Masaki, who was watching TV, smiled after sensing what Kurosaki Shirley was doing, while Kurosaki Yuzu kept staring at the TV, so he didn't notice. And at this time, Kurosaki Ishin also finished talking to the Eggflower and understood the current situation. So Kurosaki Ishin said, then, Captain Eggflower, come in and have a meal. Hearing this, Walleye originally wanted to refuse, but she thought that she would disturb them next, so she did not refuse and said, "Then I will interrupt, I have always wanted to taste the food made by Ichigo." Hearing this, Kurosaki Ishin was also very happy, so he led the way, and Kurosaki Ishin and Uno Hanaru also entered. And after entering, Kurosaki Masaki saw them and said, "After talking, then sit here and watch TV for a while, wait for a while Ichigo and the two of them are done." Hearing this, Egg Jawali also nodded, indicating that she knew. And Kurosaki Ishin immediately said to Kurosaki Masaki, "How can I make a child cook? Ichigo just came back." Hearing this, Kurosaki Masaki rolled his eyes at Kurosaki Ishin and said, "Me too, I wanted to do it, but Ichigo pushed me out of the kitchen and said I had to do it myself, so I couldn't help it." Hearing this, Kurosaki Ishin looked at Kurosaki Masaki very embarrassedly and said, "So that's how it is. I made a mistake." He scratched his head in confusion. And Kurosaki Masaki looked at Kurosaki Ishin and said, "You can tell me if you don't even understand the situation, it really makes me sad." She pretended to cry, and at this time Kurosaki Ishin was in a hurry. Looking at Kurosaki Ishin and Kurosaki Masaki's sweet home life, Kaoru no Hanaru, who was on the side, felt very hopeful. "I hope that I will have the same life as them in the future, and Ichigo comes to my mind when I think of this." For flowers. At this time, Ichigo and the others came out of the kitchen and said, "Come to eat." Then they put all the dishes they made on the table. Advertisement in Yoruichi also said, "This time the meal is very delicious." Then they looked at Kurosaki Ishin and they asked, "Is Shirley still back?" When Kurosaki Masaki heard it, he said, "Shirley went to change her clothes because she got dirty from playing football." Hearing this, Ichigo's mouth curled slightly and said, "It's nothing, Shirley is still a child anyway, so it's okay to like to play." Point zero. Hearing this, Masaki Kurosaki was about to start preaching to Ichigo, and Yoruichi said, "Okay, now it's time for dinner, let's go to the bathroom and wash your hands." Kurosaki Yuzu looked at Kurosaki Shirley and said, "Shirley is down for dinner." Hearing this, Kurosaki Shirley nodded and followed Kurosaki Yuzu downstairs. Hearing this, everyone left, and Ichigo immediately went back to the kitchen to serve dishes. But thoughts are always thoughts, and I didn't expect Kurosaki Yuzu to come upstairs to find her. Hearing this, Kurosaki Masaki said, "It's because you, the older brother, dote on them too much, so you're used to them like this." Then he looked at Ichigo fiercely. At this time, Kurosaki Shirley had already taken a shower and put on new clothes. When he was going downstairs, he heard Ichigo say that he would stay on the stairs after eating. He wanted to wait for Ichigo to come up to him and urge him to come down to eat. And Ichigo immediately said, "It's okay, let them grow up happily." Seeing this scene, Kurosaki Masaki was very dissatisfied, but he had to put down what he wanted to say for a while. Chapter 238. Sad Kurosaki Ishin, and in his heart Kurosaki Shirley thought, "Really, why did Yuzu call me at this time?" Fortunately, Kurosaki Yuzu didn't have the ability to hear Kurosaki Shirley's voice, otherwise Kurosaki Yuzu would be making trouble with Kurosaki Shirley. When the two of them went downstairs, they saw that everyone was already sitting at the dining table waiting for them. Of course Ichigo and Yoruichi haven't been seated yet because they've gone to wash their hands. And Kurosaki Masaki saw the two of them and said, "Come and sit here soon," and pointed to the two seats next to him. After seeing it, the two of them nodded and came to the side and sat down. And at this time, the egg flower lie said to Kurosaki Shirley, "I didn't see it just now, it turns out that Shirley is so beautiful and cute." Hearing that, 590, Kurosaki Shirley was very shy, because this was the first time someone had praised her like this, and Kurosaki Shirley was a little overwhelmed. And Kurosaki Masaki said directly, "What's so cute, it's like a boy all day long." Hearing this, Kurosaki Shirley looked at Kurosaki Masaki unhappily, while Kurosaki Yuzu snickered beside him. Egg Jawali went on to say, "How could it be? Doesn't this mean that Shirley is very lively?" Kurosaki Shirley was very happy to hear the compliments from Kaoru. On the other hand, Kurosaki Yuzu was a little dissatisfied, because Egg no Hanalai had never praised her like that, so he was a little bit appetizing. Of course, Uno Hanari also noticed Kurosaki Yuzu's expression, so he said to her, "Of course, Yuzu is also very cute, and also very virtuous." Hearing this, Kurosaki Yuzu was also happy, because praise from outsiders is the truest evaluation of them. At this time, Ichigo and Yoruichi came out, took off their aprons, and tied their hands clean. Advertisement. Ichigo saw Kurosaki Shirley and said, "Shirley, when did you come back and why didn't you say hello to me?" And Kurosaki Shirley immediately explained nervously after hearing it, "No, it's just," she was so nervous that she didn't know what to say, and she seemed very speechless. Seeing this scene, Ichigo smiled and then opened his arms. Seeing this, Kurosaki Shirley didn't say anything, but jumped directly into Ichigo's arms and said, "I miss you so much, Ichigo bro," and rubbed in Ichigo's arms. And Ichigo also touched Kurosaki Shirley's head and said, "I miss you too, Shirley." Happy to hear Kurosaki Shirley here. Then Ichigo tapped Kurosaki Shirley's forehead and said, "Okay, let's go eat first. Everyone is waiting for us." 35. Hearing this, Kurosaki Shirley also thought that it was not just the two of them, so he let go of Ichigo. Then sat down and started eating. After tasting Ichigo's food, Egg no Lie praised Ichigo without hesitation. Ichigo Yoruichi, what you two cook is really delicious. 35 It seems that the speed of adding vegetables has become faster. Ichigo is very happy to see this scene, because the chef is very proud when he hears that his dishes are praised by others. And Yoruichi was a little arrogant when he heard it, but her hostility to Egg Flour Lie has also become much lighter. Then after the meal, everyone looked satisfied. At this time, Kurosaki Masaki said, Ichigo and Yoruichi made the rice, so let me clean up the dishes. 35 Before I said that, I waited for Ichigo and Yoruichi to agree and started to clean up. And the flour of the egg said to Kurosaki Masaki, then let me help too. Then he started to help Kurosaki Masaki and packed up together. Advertisement Originally, Kurosaki Ishin wanted to clean up with Kurosaki Masaki, but he didn't say anything anymore when he saw Ajino Hanaritsu clean up. And Kurosaki Masaki saw that the egg flour Retsu was helping himself and said, no, Retsu, you should rest here, you are a guest. And Egg Jawali said directly, it's okay, I don't have anything to do anyway, I should help you as well. She didn't listen to her words and started doing it on her own. Seeing this scene, Kurosaki Masaki no longer stopped her but packed up together. And Ichigo didn't care when they saw that they were cleaning up, and said to the Kurosaki sisters, okay, then you two can go to the living room and watch TV. I'll clean up the dining table. Then he picked up the towel and started wiping it. Stand up. The Kurosaki sisters also obediently came to the living room and sat down on the sofa. Kurosaki Ishin was very happy to see them coming and said, come and take a seat at daddy's place. Shirley Yuzu, and pointed to the seats on both sides of him. Hearing this, 1.4 Kurosaki Shirley directly told Ichigo what happened just now. Yoruichi said to Kurosaki Shirley, indeed, you must be more careful in the future. Ichigo was also very helpless when he heard Yoruichi's downfall, while Kurosaki Ishin on the other side became even darker after hearing Yoruichi's words. Kurosaki Shirley made a face at Kurosaki Ishin after Kurosaki sisters saw it and said, dream, you old man. And Kurosaki Yuzu also made a face at Kurosaki Ishin after Kurosaki Shirley. And Ichigo and Yoruichi came to the living room after cleaning the dining table. Ichigo saw Kurosaki Ishin squatting in the corner and didn't know what he was muttering. He asked Kurosaki Shirley, what happened to dad? Hearing this, Kurosaki Ishin was very sad and wiped away tears in a corner of the living room. And Ichigo thought to himself, Yuzu, I really learned some black belly from my mother. Hearing this, Kurosaki Ishin immediately turned even darker. But Kurosaki Yuzu went on to say, although dad is indeed such a person, it's better not to say it and let him hear it, isn't it? 5. Kurosaki Yuzu said to Yoruichi, don't say that about dad. He was resurrected when he heard Kurosaki Yuzu's concern for him. Chapter 239. Arrangement. Seeing Kurosaki Yuzu talking about Kurosaki Ishin with a black belly all the time, Ichigo wanted to laugh so much, so the corners of Ichigo's mouth twitched up. When Yoruichi saw it, he laughed straight away, but thought something was not good, so he snickered. Kurosaki Yuzu let go of Kurosaki Ishin after saying something, and immediately said to Ichigo, brother, come and sit here. And Kurosaki Shirley also pointed to Ichigo between himself and Kurosaki Yuzu, and Ichigo shook his head helplessly after seeing it. But without rejecting them, he came to sit among them, and Yoruichi sat next to Kurosaki Shirley. Seeing that they were sitting next to them, they were both very happy, so they started to be cute to Ichigo. The Kurosaki sisters first shrank into Ichigo's arms, and then held Ichigo's arm, and from time to time they kissed Ichigo's cheek. They all said it was the love and intimacy of the sister for the brother. But Yoruichi doesn't think so, she thinks. Yuzu and Shirley don't like 26 Ichigo. Of course, Yoruichi thought so, but she didn't say it. Because of this question, let's ask Kurosaki Masaki to make sure. But after Yoruichi asked Kurosaki Masaki, she regretted, and of course it's a later story. And the two of them said to Ichigo, we want to sleep with my brother tonight. Kurosaki Yuzu said to Ichigo coquettishly. Of course, Ichigo refused to agree and said, no, there is a guest at home. Let others see it. Hearing this, Kurosaki Shirley said very easily, it's alright, anyway, Sister Lai is not an outsider, but our sister. Advertisement. Hearing this, Ichigo was speechless. I didn't expect their relationship with Uno Hana Lai to improve so quickly. Seeing this, the corner of Ichigo's mouth twitched, and when he wanted to say something, Kurosaki Shirley said directly, Sister Lai is going to sleep in that room? He also pointed at Kurosaki Yuzu with his eyes. And Kurosaki Yuzu immediately understood what Kurosaki Shirley meant and said to Ichigo, that's right, brother, Sister Lai also wants to live here. So brother sleeps with us, and Sister Lai sleeps with Sister Yoruichi, right? Can it be done? Hearing this, Ichigo knew what they were thinking, and then nodded to their foreheads and said, we have 2 houses. After hearing this, the Kurosaki sisters thought that there is still a house here, so the two of them lost their interest when they shouted, oh. And Ichigo immediately understood what she meant, so he said to the two of them, okay, don't cry. I promise you to do as you arranged today, but can Ojawali live with Yoruichi at night? You must have Yoruichi's approval. After hearing Ichigo's words, the two of them immediately became happy, and when they heard that Yoruichi would decide the sleeping place of Uno Hanaru, the two of them immediately began to act like a spoiled child to Yoruichi. Yoruichi was at a loss when he saw this, and Ichigo continued, "Of course your sister said something for you." Hearing this, their attack on Yoruichi became even more intense. "Sister Yoruichi. You are the best, Sister Yoruichi, you are the person I love the most, and you are the only one in this world who loves me the most." Wait, they said a lot of sweet words. In the end, Yoruichi couldn't stop them from attacking, so he promised. Okay, I promise, can't I do it?" Advertisement. Hearing this, the two of them jumped up happily and said, "It's great, Yoruichi is the best." At this time, a voice remembered and said, "What's so happy about it? Come and tell us both." Hearing where the Kurosaki sisters are frozen, I don't know what to do. The people who came were Kurosaki Masaki and Uno Hinari. When they both walked towards the living room after washing, they heard the laughter of the Kurosaki sisters because they were far away, so they didn't hear it very clearly. And Kurosaki Masaki said aloud, "Is this okay?" Although Kurosaki Masaki asked, she was still very happy, because she did not forget the wishes of the Kurosaki sisters. But she didn't show any refusal at all, instead she was stunned. And Kurosaki shyly immediately reacted and said, "Of course, it's because Sister Lai is staying with us today, so we are happy." Kurosaki Yuzu also nodded. Hearing this, Kurosaki Masaki said directly, "I'm so happy, then you two will sleep with Retsu at night." The two of them were immediately stunned when they heard these 590 miles, and then they felt that what happened just now seemed like an illusion. But when I closed my eyes and opened them again, I saw that Kurosaki Masaki was still here, so I knew it wasn't a hallucination. Hearing this, although they wanted to refuse, they didn't know what to say when they saw the expression on Uziwali's face. They also looked at Kurosaki Masaki pitifully, but Kurosaki Masaki didn't even see them and sat next to Ichigo. And Egg no Wa Lai smiled softly and said, "Then I will sleep with Yuzu shyly tonight." But at this time, Ichigo said, "Mom, no need, they want to sleep with me at night, and Sister Lai will sleep with Yoruichi." She also looked at Wa Lai Egg, hoping to see that she refused, still agreed. Chapter 240. Ask and Yoruichi also said aloud, "It's nothing, it's not a big deal anyway, and I really hope I can sleep with Sister Lai." After saying that, she looked at Eggjawali and continued, "Sister Lai, what do you think?" After hearing Yoruichi's question, Yoruichi was stunned for a moment, and then immediately replied, "I think it's okay to sleep with Yoruichi." Yoruichi is very happy to hear this, and she doesn't know why she is happy. And Kurosaki Masaki couldn't say anything more after hearing what Yoruichi and Uno Hinaru said, nodded and said, "Okay, since you have all decided so, so be it." Kurosaki Masaki continued, "Then we'll go back to the room and change into pajamas, so you can go too." Hearing this, Ichigo and the others also nodded. And Eggjawali was stunned when she heard that she was going to change her pajamas, because she had not been in this world for a long time, so she didn't know some changes in this world. Yoruichi took Uno Hanalai's hand and said, "Come on, I'll give Sister Lai another of my pajamas." Then he took Uno Hanalai's hand and walked towards Ichigo and Yoruichi's room. And Ichigo said to the Kurosaki sisters, "Okay, now you two should go up and wash and then come down." Hearing this, they all nodded and said, "Got it, brother Ichigo, brother," and ran upstairs. Seeing this scene, Ichigo also smiled, but of course the corners of his mouth twitched. And after Yoruichi brought Uziwali into the room, he ran to the wardrobe, opened it to Uziwali and said, "Sister Lai, come here to have a look, want to wear that?" After hearing Yoruichi's words, Uno Hanalai came to Yoruichi's side and saw the clothes in the wardrobe. Uno Hanalai was very surprised, because there were a lot of clothes in it, and every one of them looked beautiful. Advertisement. After that, Yoruichi was stunned when he saw it, and Yoruichi was stunned when he saw that. He took out pajamas from the closet and said, "How about this one? I think it suits Sister Lai very well." Yoruichi took out a pure white pajamas, and it was the same style as a kimono. Uno Hanalai liked this dress after seeing it. Seeing the happy look inside, Yoruichi knew that he liked this dress, so he pulled the egg and said, "Sister Lai, try it first." Wa Lai said something and forcibly took off Wa Lai's clothes and let her put on pajamas. Yoruichi also had to praise Yoruichi when she saw Uno Hana in pajamas, because Uhana is really perfect and beautiful in kimono. Moreover, because of the scars on her chest that Ichigo helped her to improve, even her spiritual body was repaired, so her current body doesn't have any scars. It's probably because of this that Uno Hinaru has some feelings for Ichigo. Yoruichi praised the flower of the egg and said, "Sister Lai, you are really beautiful now." Hearing that, Kaorukuchi also turned around like a child and asked Yoruichi, "Really, am I really beautiful now?" Hearing this, Yoruichi smiled and said, "I definitely won't lie to you about this. Now if a man sees Sister Lai, he will definitely be fascinated." But he said in his heart, "Ichigo is absolutely impossible." After hearing Yoruichi's compliment, Uno Hinari was also very happy and said, "Yoruichi, you are beautiful too." Yoruichi laughed when he heard that, and Kaoru Kono was also very happy. After they both laughed almost, Yoruichi said, "Sister Lai, let's go take a bath." 99. And Eggjawali agreed after hearing it, because she really hadn't washed for a few days, so she wanted to wash it too. Advertisement. Yoruichi was also very happy after seeing the promise of the egg flower. Why is Yoruichi so happy now? Of course it has something to do with Ichigo. Ichigo brought Yoruichi into the system space when he saw that Yoruichi was always on guard against the egg flower, and after giving Yoruichi a lot of assurances, Yoruichi no longer took this matter to heart, but now he is still with the egg flower. Lai became friends. Of course, I don't know if this friend will last for a long time. After Yoruichi put his hands in the bath, Yoruichi took off his clothes and went into the bathtub. Yoruichi also laughed after hearing this, but then asked egg flower Lai, Sister Lai, do you have someone you like? But the current Yoruichi's figure is much taller than the egg flower. Then he said to Egg Jawali, Sister Lai, come in, it's very comfortable, and waved. After that, Kaoru the egg went into the bathtub and lay down. At this time, Yoruichi took a good look at the figure of the egg, and indeed, Lee Nuo's is perfect. Yoruichi teased at egg flower Lai, Sister Lai, she's so beautiful. She felt that if she hadn't awakened her physique to become a strong spirit king, she would still be on par with Egg Jawali's figure now. After seeing the egg, Huali nodded and took it off. After hearing this, Yoruichi said, Yoruichi, you are the real beauty. This sentence is really what Yoruichi said, because she thought Yoruichi was so beautiful that she couldn't even think of herself. Do not admit defeat. Chapter 241. At night Yoruichi was lying in the bathtub enjoying himself, and was surprised when he heard Yoruichi's words. Because she didn't know what Yoruichi meant by asking herself. When Yoruichi saw Egg Jawali's somewhat surprised eyes, he said, Sister Lai, I just asked, I have no other idea. Hearing this, Uziwali let out a sigh of relief, then looked at Yoruichi and said, there are still people I like, but I don't know how to tell him, because he has a lover that he likes. He said with a vague look at the end. Yoruichi glanced. After that, Yoruichi asked, I want to ask who is it, how can I make Sister Lai like him? Then he looked at Eggflower Lai with great anticipation. And after hearing Yoruichi's question, Egg no Hana Lai said, forget it, I'll talk to him after I told him that day. Hearing this, Yoruichi knew that there was no way Uno Hanaritsu could tell her, so he sighed. But Yoruichi was still a little wary, because she felt that the person who the egg flower was talking about should be Ichigo. Because when she searched for news in Soul Society, she didn't see anyone she liked, but after seeing Ichigo, she did. So Yoruichi didn't show any performance on the surface, but he was secretly vigilant in his heart. And Yoruichi sighed after hearing the words of Uno Hana, and then rushed towards U-590 Hana. Seeing Yoruichi rushing towards her, Eggflower Lai was a little overwhelmed, because she has never been intimate with others before, and only her vice-captain, Katetsu Izan, is slightly intimate. But Yoruichi didn't jump at her so directly, so she didn't know what to do. And when she was at a loss, Yoruichi had already jumped on the egg of the flower, and hugged her and said, Sister Lai, your skin is so good. I tickled the flower of the egg while talking. Stand up. Yoruichi was about to say something, but immediately started laughing at Yoruichi's action. Ha ha ha. Okay, ha ha ha. Yoruichi. Ha ha ha, she said while laughing. And Yoruichi saw that it was almost time to let go of the egg. Advertisement afterwards, Egg Jawali was panting in the bathtub, because she was smiling all the time, she could hardly breathe now. And Yoruichi smiled when he saw the current appearance of Eggflower Lai. Sister Lai, you look really attractive now. While talking. CGBE. He poked at the itchy place of Eggflower Lai. And the Eggflower Lai immediately begged for mercy and said, let me go, good sister, and looked at Yoruichi with pitiful eyes. After seeing this, Yoruichi also let go of the egg Hanaritsu and lay down on the other side of the bathtub. The bathtub is huge and can accommodate 2 or 3 people, so it is not crowded in this bathtub. What's more, Yoruichi and Uno Hana are so good looking, so they don't occupy much space in the bathtub at all. While Yoruichi and Uno Hana were fighting in the bathroom, the Kurosaki sisters had already changed into their pajamas after returning to the room and came out. And when they came out wearing pajamas, even Ichigo was surprised, because they were wearing newly bought pajamas, and now the Kurosaki sisters are very beautiful and cute when they grew up, so Ichigo was also a little surprised. After the 2 of them got down, they rushed towards Ichigo, and Ichigo caught them, and said, really, how dangerous it is, and knocked them on the head. And they hugged their heads and looked at Ichigo with dissatisfaction, pretending to be in pain. Ichigo said to them, okay, Yuzu Shirley, I have something to ask of you, and looked at them quite seriously. And when they saw the scene, they said, what's the matter? Ichigo looked at them and said, can you take my pajamas out of my room? When they heard this, they were stunned, because it was just a simple thing to ask them, so they were very dissatisfied. But thinking that Ichigo's room has this egg flower, so Ichigo does not go in is also a matter of courtesy, so the Kurosaki sisters agreed to Ichigo's request. Then he walked towards Ichigo's room, and said to Ichigo, after you bring it, you will play with us. He looked at Ichigo very firmly. After seeing it, Ichigo said lightly, what I say will definitely be done. Advertisement hearing this, they were very happy and walked upstairs. Because they knew that Ichigo would never lie, as long as he promised to do what he promised to do, he would do it even with his life, so they were very relieved. By the time the 2 of them entered the room, Yoruichi and the others had already washed their hands, and sat on the bed in their pajamas talking an interesting story. Upon seeing the Kurosaki sisters come in, Yoruichi asked, what's the matter? Yuzu shyly. And they came in and said, "We're here to get Ichigo-san's pajamas," Kurosaki shyly said. Hearing this, Yoruichi smiled and said, "The clothes are on the balcony, I'll go get them." Then he walked towards the balcony. At this time, Kurosaki Yuzu said in surprise, "Sister Lai, you are really beautiful." Hearing this, the two of them were stunned, and Yoruichi said to the two of them, "Okay, take you guys and go back to rest early." Then he handed them the pajamas. And Eggflower Lai smiled and said, "Then the old sister Lai is not good looking, isn't she beautiful?" After the two of them got it, they followed Yoruichi and they came out after they had a good night. After hearing Kurosaki Yuzu's words, Kurosaki shyly also looked at Uno Hanalai, saw Uno Hanalai's current outfit, and said sincerely, "Indeed, what Yuzu said is too right, Sister Lai is really too good now, beautiful." At this time, Yoruichi came over with the pajamas, and then saw the Eggflower Lai teasing the Kurosaki sisters and said, "Sister Lai, stop teasing them, they're all stunned." Hearing that, Walleye of Egg was very happy and said, "Yuzu and Shirley are really good children," he stroked their heads. Hearing this, Walleye didn't continue to say anything, but said apologetically to the two of them, "I'm sorry, Sister Lai has gone a bit too far, can you forgive me?" At this time, Sister Kurosaki also recovered, and said to her, "It's nothing, Sister Lai, we are not angry." Chapter 242. In the night and after the Kurosaki sisters and the others came out, Yoruichi and Uno Hanari began to talk about something. Eggflower Lai asked, "Yoruichi, how did you and Ichigo get together?" He looked at Yoruichi in confusion. And Yoruichi blushed very much when she heard Uno Hanalai's question, because the manager made her a little overwhelmed. Because at that time, Ichigo was still young, so if Yoruichi said it, others would probably regard Yoruichi as an old cow eating young grass. But when he saw Egg Jawali wanted to hear it, he started talking to her. And Egg no Hanalai also listened to Yoruichi's words very seriously, and the envy in her eyes was even greater. On the other side, the Kurosaki sisters brought Ichigo's pajamas and Ichigo said, "Thanks, Yuzu shyly, I'm going to change now, so you can watch TV for a while or do something else." The Kurosaki sisters were very dissatisfied after hearing this, and Kurosaki shyly said, "Ichigo brother, you better wash it tomorrow. Anyway, I'm not so anxious, and Ichigo brother doesn't need to wash now," she said to Ichigo smell. Kurosaki shyly smelled a nice fragrance, which made her feel like her brother was really perfect. Ichigo is no longer a mortal body because his strength has been raised to the level of a spirit king, and after activating his physique, his body will not have any dirt or smell. Seeing this scene, Ichigo was helpless for a while, then took a step back and said, "Okay, I'll rinse it, and I'll come down immediately, it won't take 10 minutes. And while Ichigo was talking, Kurosaki Yuzu also hugged Ichigo and smelled Ichigo. Although I had been holding Ichigo before, I didn't notice the smell on Ichigo's body at all, so I wanted to smell it now and get to know it. Advertisement. Seeing this, Ichigo looked at Kurosaki Yuzu with black lines on his head and said, "Okay, don't make trouble, I'm going to go up and wash." Then he stroked Kurosaki Yuzu's head. And Kurosaki Yuzu released his hand happily after feeling the touch, then looked at Ichigo and said, "Hurry up then, brother." After hearing this, Ichigo smiled and said, "Of course, I'll be very soon," and walked towards the bathroom. And when Ichigo came to the bathroom, he let out a sigh of relief, because he felt that his sister was a little too clingy now, not even more clingy when she was a child. Although Ichigo is so powerful now that he has no low hand in this world, he is still a little overwhelmed by his sister. Then he started taking a shower. While the Kurosaki sisters in the living room watched Ichigo enter the bathroom, Kurosaki shyly said to Kurosaki Yuzu, "Yuzu, you really should use your strengths." Hearing this, Kurosaki Yuzu was at a loss because she couldn't understand Kurosaki Shiarli's words. And Kurosaki shyly said carefully to Kurosaki Yuzu when he saw Kurosaki Yuzu's appearance. "Yuzu, our biggest advantage is that we are brother Ichigo's younger sister, so brother Ichigo has no defense against his own sister, so we have to." Kurosaki shyly said a lot of things to Kurosaki Yuzu in this. And Kurosaki Yuzu understands some of the first, but doesn't understand the following. At this time, when Kurosaki shyly wanted to say something, a voice came from beside him. "Why don't you sleep now?" When they heard the sound, they immediately screamed. Hearing their screams, the person who spoke just now was also startled, and followed suit. Advertisement. For flowers. But after reacting immediately, the man turned to both of them and said, "Okay, stop calling at me." Hearing this, the two of them stopped calling and looked at the man. They both let out a sigh of relief when they saw the person coming, but immediately became nervous again. It turned out that it was their mother Kurosaki Masaki. The current Kurosaki Masaki was wearing pajamas and looked at them angrily. Of course, the other people in the house heard the Kurosaki sisters' screams, and after checking with Ryotsu, they understood that it was between Kurosaki Masaki and the Kurosaki sisters. "I didn't go out because Ichigo was taking a shower and there wouldn't be much of a business between them, but Yoruichi and Kazuki came out." Kurosaki Ishin, when Kurosaki Masaki came out, had already come to the kitchen to get a glass of milk and walked towards the living room. When he heard screams, he was startled and spilled the milk on the ground. Immediately after that, he ran into the living room, and after seeing Kurosaki Masaki and Kurosaki sisters, he understood why. Kurosaki Masaki looked at Kurosaki Ishin when he saw Kurosaki running over, and when he saw the stain on his trousers, he said to him, "Let's clean up." Kurosaki Ishin was surprised to hear this, but listened to her words to clean up the spilled milk and the stains on his pajamas. And after Kurosaki Ishin left, Yoruichi and Konohanaru appeared on the stairs. Yoruichi asked, "What's wrong?" Egg no Hanalai also looked at them suspiciously. Because they didn't know what was going on, they asked her. And Kurosaki Masaki explained what happened just now when she saw them coming, and Yoruichi and the others both laughed when they heard it. This made the Kurosaki sisters blush even more. Chapter 243, Under the Night. Yoruichi and Eggflower sat down on the sofa and looked at them. Yoruichi said, "What did you two just do?" No one noticed. 99. Hearing this, the Kurosaki sisters didn't speak. Where were they stomping? Seeing this scene, Yoruichi stopped persecuting them and said, "Okay, I won't ask you anymore. Come and sit here." 35. He pointed at the seat next to him. After seeing this, the two of them immediately came to Yoruichi and sat down. Because Kurosaki Masaki sat down next to where they were sitting, they were afraid to sit next to her, and then they went directly to Yoruichi and Uno Hanaru and sat next to Yoruichi's words. At this time, Kurosaki Ishin also packed up and came to the living room. 593. Looked at them and said, "What are you doing sitting here?" Hearing this, Kurosaki shyly said, "We're going to play poker together, of course." Kurosaki Yuzu nodded immediately after hearing this. Hearing this, Kurosaki Masaki immediately said, "It's so late, what are you playing? Go back to bed immediately," and then looked at them with very, very stern eyes. And when the two of them saw Kurosaki Masaki's warning, they immediately became ostriches. When Yoruichi saw it, he smiled and said, "Okay, Mom, they're just kids anyway, just having fun." Kurosaki Masaki was very dissatisfied when he heard it and said, "Ichigo was very sensible when he was so young, it's not like the two of them made me worry so much." Egg no Hanalai said, "Masaki-san, don't be so strict with children, and not everyone is Ichigo." Hearing this, Kurosaki Masaki also nodded. Indeed, not everyone is like Ichigo, am I being too strict with Yuzu shyly? But she immediately denied the idea, because Egg Jawali pleaded with them both, so she said to them, "I'll let you two out this time on Lee's face." Then he looked at Yoruichi and Egg no Hanaru and said, "Do you want to ask?" And Yoruichi said, "Let's play for a while, there's nothing going on tomorrow anyway." Advertisement Egg Flowerlie said, "I can do whatever I want, but I want to play." After that, Kurosaki Masaki said to Kurosaki Ishin, "Don't take the poker yet," and glared at him. Kurosaki Ishin also went to get poker helplessly after hearing this. He thought to himself, "How can I be so unlucky, even though they gave me a suggestion, but they still treat me like this, I am so bitter, I really envy Ichigo and Shirley." Then he brought the poker and they started playing poker. But Kurosaki Ishin was nowhere to be seen in the living room. Excuse me, Kurosaki Ishin didn't think there was any point in being here, so he went back to his room. And they started playing after Kurosaki Ishin brought the poker. Before playing, Kurosaki Masaki explained the rules of the game to Omo Hanaru, and then they started playing. At the beginning, Egg Jawali lost a few times, but after she became proficient, she also started to win. And while they were playing poker, Ichigo came out of the bathroom and came down. Seeing them nervously playing poker made Ichigo a little funny. And they were all shocked when they saw the person coming, and immediately changed back to their original appearance, because they didn't want to be rude in front of Ichigo. After seeing their situation, Ichigo said, "It's nothing, you guys continue to play." Then he sat next to Yoruichi and turned on the TV to watch. Then they calmly finished the fight and watched TV with Ichigo. The winner this time was Kurosaki Shirley, because the cards she drew were really good, and they played out without any hindrance. When Ichigo saw that they stopped playing, he said, "Why don't you play anymore?" Advertisement Kurosaki Masaki said, "It's time to go to bed now, so it's time to rest." Hearing this, Ichigo nodded and said, "Indeed, it's a bit late now, so let's all go back to the room to sleep." Then he turned off the TV and got up and walked upstairs. Kurosaki Masaki also walked towards his room, and Hanarito Ovo and the others followed behind Ichigo and walked upstairs. And Ichigo came to the door of the room and looked at the flower of the egg and said, "You are wearing this very well." After that, he opened the door and went in. After hearing Ichigo's words, Uno Hinari was stunned for a moment, but immediately said, "Thank you for your compliment," and walked into the room immediately after saying that. And after entering the room, his face turned a little red, and Egg Jawali was still very young, stroking his heartbeat, and said, "It's the first time he praised me. If I see this scene, Ichigo will definitely shout, don't think about it." Yoruichi, who was outside, looked at Ichigo with dissatisfaction after hearing Ichigo's words and said, "Are you talking to her?" He didn't say anything after that, but Ichigo also understood. After hearing this, Ichigo said, "No," he said firmly. Hearing this, Yoruichi breathed a sigh of relief, but Ichigo continued, "Maybe in the future," and went in without waiting for Yoruichi's reply. And Yoruichi immediately reacted, and the door was closed by Ichigo when he was about to interrogate Ichigo. Then she was very dissatisfied and said, "You come out on 1.4, and then knocked hard on the door a few times." And Ichigo opened the door when he heard the knock and said, "What's the matter?" Hearing this, Yoruichi looked at Ichigo speechlessly and said, "You should give me an answer." Seeing that Yoruichi was a little nervous, he smiled at her and said, "I'm joking." Then he smiled at Ichigo. Hearing this, Yoruichi was very happy and thumped Ichigo's chest and said, "I hate you," and went back to the room after saying that. And Ichigo saw the Kurosaki sisters have been looking at himself with a very funny look, so he flicked the heads of the two of them and said, "Okay, come in quickly and sleep," and let them in. Chapter 244. The end of the night after the Kurosaki sisters came in, Ichigo made the bed first. The Kurosaki sisters were supposed to help, but Ichigo refused their request. The Kurosaki sisters also had to watch Ichigo tidy up the bed, and then get herself a floor bunk. Seeing this scene, Kurosaki shyly said, "Why do you want to make a floor? Can't we sleep together?" He looked at Ichigo with very pitiful eyes. Even Kurosaki Yuzu hugged Ichigo's arm tightly and acted coquettishly at him. But it's a pity that Ichigo doesn't eat this set at all. He firmly opposed their request and said, "If it doesn't work, I'll change the room." Hearing this, the two of them had no choice but to give up. Then Ichigo urged them to go to bed, but the two of them didn't stick to each other, which made Ichigo very helpless. Ichigo asked the two of them, "What do you two want?" Then he looked at her 26 with the eyes that I was defeated by you. Seeing Ichigo looking at them with such eyes, they both felt a little ashamed. But the two of them were also very happy to think that Ichigo could be with them. Kurosaki shyly said, "We want to hear Ichigo-san tell a story." Kurosaki Yuzu also nodded. After hearing this, Ichigo said helplessly, "Didn't you both listen to it when you were young? Do you still want to listen now when you grow up?" 35. Hearing this, Kurosaki Yuzu reluctantly said, "If you want to listen, you must listen." Kurosaki shyly followed Kurosaki Yuzu and acted coquettishly at Ichigo, which made Ichigo's defense line collapse in an instant. Then Ichigo said directly to the two of them, Okay, got it, I'll tell." They were both very happy to hear this. But Ichigo continued, "Both of you are lying on the bed, I'll talk about it." After saying that, the two of them ran into the bed at a very fast speed, and then pointed to Ichigo where the two of them left, let Ichigo sit there and talk. Advertisement. Seeing this scene, Ichigo couldn't help laughing, but I still came there and sat down and continued. "You guys have to be quiet, I'm going to start talking now." After that, he started talking. This world is very different from the original world. Although they are all modern cities, the development of technology and people's living standards are somewhat behind Ichigo's original world. Therefore, many stories in the original world are not available in this world, so Ichigo always told them a lot of stories that were not heard in this world when they were young, and the two of them also fell in love with Ichigo because of this. A story for them both. Soon Ichigo's story was over, and he looked at the two of them and said, "Okay, that's it for today, you two should go to bed too," and turned off the lights before they could talk. Then Ichigo heard Kurosaki shyly complain, "Seriously, I'm going to bed so early." Ichigo said seriously, "It's not early now, and going to bed late is not good for your health, so you two should go to bed early." After saying that, Ichigo also lay down. The Kurosaki sisters knew it was over when Ichigo was serious, so the two of them had no choice but to lie down and go to sleep. When Ichigo was about to enter the system space to play, Kurosaki shyly said to Ichigo, "Ichigo brother, will you stay with us all the time?" Kurosaki shyly and Kurosaki Yuzu looked at Ichigo nervously. Seeing this scene, Ichigo said solemnly, "What a joke, of course I'll be with you two all the time." The Kurosaki sisters were very sad when they heard the first half of the sentence, but immediately became happy after hearing the second half of the sentence. The two of them happily got up and came to Ichigo's side, and lay down directly. Ichigo said helplessly when he saw the actions of the two of them, "Okay, don't be naughty, go back to bed quickly." But the two of them didn't listen to Ichigo at all. Instead, they directly leaned on Ichigo's body and hugged one arm each without letting go. Seeing this scene, Ichigo was also speechless, so he had to say to the two of them, "Okay, I know, you two can sleep like this." Then he stopped saying anything to the two of them, but let them both sleep beside him. Seeing that Ichigo was no longer chasing them, the two of them were very happy and thanked Yoruichi secretly. Why should I thank Yoruichi? It started when the Kurosaki sisters went to Yoruichi in the evening when she was taking a bath in Uno Hanaru. Advertisement. Yoruichi came out first after Yoruichi and Uno Hana Lil played in the bathroom, and Uno Hana Lai wanted to continue soaking in the bathtub, so Yoruichi didn't wait for her. And after she came out, the door of the room was knocked. Yoruichi was a little puzzled, thinking it was Ichigo. But after opening the door and seeing that it was the Kurosaki sisters, they were very puzzled, and the two of them looked at Yoruichi and said, "I'm really sorry, Yoruichi-sama." Yoruichi was very puzzled when they heard this. But immediately she thought of why. Because the two of them are going to sleep with Ichigo again, and Yoruichi is going to sleep with the egg flower, so they both feel a little sorry for Yoruichi. And Yoruichi said directly, "It's nothing, it's just a small matter." Seeing Yi 593 forgave them, the two of them were very happy and said, "Thank you, Sister Yoruichi." Then when they were about to go out, Yoruichi stopped them and said, "Would you like to be intimate with your brother Ichigo? And if Ichigo is really caused by Yoruichi, then she will be out of luck tomorrow, but Ichigo doesn't know." After finishing speaking, Kurosaki shyly said to Yoruichi, "So Yoruichi-san won't be angry?" Kurosaki Yuzu also looked at Yoruichi nervously after hearing Kurosaki Shiarui's words. And Yoruichi said indifferently, "It's alright, both of you are Ichigo's sisters, even if you have an intimate performance, it's normal." Hearing this, the two of them came directly to Yoruichi's side and looked at Yoruichi eagerly. Yoruichi smiled after seeing this scene and whispered to the two of them. Hearing this, Kurosaki sisters also breathed a sigh of relief, but she was still a little disappointed. Then Ichigo also stumbled into a dream. The current situation is also caused by this matter, and the Kurosaki sisters said, "Thank you, Yoruichi-san," when they fell asleep holding Ichigo's arm, and then the two of them also entered the dream. Then they both went back to their rooms. Chapter 245. The Strength of Kurosaki Isshin and Kurosaki Masaki. The next morning, the sun shone on Ichigo's face, and Ichigo woke up quickly. After that, Ichigo has a lot of energy even if he doesn't sleep, but Ichigo still enjoys the feeling of sleeping, and of course Yoruichi is the same. And when Ichigo woke up and felt the weight on his body, he knew it must be the Kurosaki sisters and the others. So Ichigo looked down at the two of them and his head was full of black lines, because they were both lying on Ichigo's chest, and both were drooling, which made Ichigo speechless. I wanted to wake them both up, but Ichigo felt their attachment to me, so Ichigo didn't do anything and let them both continue to fall asleep on his chest. On the other hand, Yoruichi and Unohana were asleep in the same bed. Until now, the two of them have not woken up and are still asleep here. Because the two of them talked a lot last night, they haven't woken up yet. Yoruichi is used to sleeping with Ichigo now, so her sleeping position is a bit indecent. Egg Jawali slept very well, and had been sleeping peacefully on the bed. Then Egg Jawali suddenly opened his eyes and looked at himself. Because Egg Jihuli suddenly had a leg on her body, Egg Jihuli was awakened. After seeing Yoruichi's appearance, Kaoru Kaori was also very helpless. Now she fell asleep with her feet on her body, then she gently put Yoruichi's feet back and lay quietly looking at the ceiling. At this time, Yoruichi also opened his eyes and looked at Ujiwali, but of course he didn't wake up Ujiwali. Instead, he looked at her quietly, not knowing what he was thinking. And Kurosaki Isshin and Kurosaki Masaki woke up at this time and got up. When Kurosaki Isshin was making up his bed, he asked Kurosaki Masaki, who was sitting on the bed, "Did you say the children are up?" 99. Kurosaki Masaki looked at him and said, "I think Ichigo should be awake, and the two children, Yuzu and Shirley, should still be asleep." He made up the bed as he spoke. When Kurosaki Isshin heard it, he thought it should be like that. Advertisement. Then Kurosaki Isshin and Kurosaki Masaki went to the yard to watch the sunrise and sit in the morning gymnastics after packing up. And now Kurosaki Isshin and Kurosaki Masaki's strength has improved to a very strong point. Even if Yamamoto is here, there is no chance that the captain will win against them. Of course, it is the current captain of Yamamoto Yuan Laojai. Even if the entire Kamen Corps were to fight Kurosaki Isshin and Kurosaki Masaki, there was only a 20% certainty. This is of course because Ichigo has boosted the power of both of them to a terrifying level. Name: Kurosaki Isshin S**X. Male age: 198. Spouse: Kurosaki Masaki. Potential: Super Captain Ryotsu, Super Captain, level 24. Zanpakuto. Injetsu, Bankai, Kido. LVMAX 17 Shunpo. LVMAX level 18. White Hits. LVMAX level 17 Chopping. LVMAX 19 Combat Experience. LVMAX 20. Crescent Moon. LVMAX 19 Advertisement. This is the attribute of Kurosaki Isshin, of course. There are some skills besides the Crescent Moon, but it is unclear here. Next is Kurosaki Masaki's attributes. Name: Kurosaki Masaki, Kishin. Gender: female. Age: 39. Spouse: Kurosaki Isshin. Potential: Super Captain. Ryotsu. Super Captain, level 24, Flying Scythe Feet, LVMAX 18. Combat: Lee Nuo Good, Experience, LVMAX 19. Of course, there was also Ichigo who helped Kurosaki Masaki understand, so the current Ichigo family can be said to be the top powerhouse except the Kurosaki sisters. Disguised Heavenly Puppet. LVMAX 19 and Ichigo can make the Kurosaki sisters stronger now, but he thinks he should not let their peaceful life disappear now, so Ichigo decided not to improve their strength now, and asked them when they both reach high school. Let's talk about it later. The current Kurosaki Masaki's strength is very terrifying. Even the Still Blood Suit, the Dynamic Blood Suit and the Quince Samurai have been learned by Kurosaki Masaki. The Eucharist of the Quincy, LVMAX 18 Village Level. Still Blood Equipment. LVMAX 19 Blood Armor, LVMAX 19. Chapter 246. Helpless. And after Kurosaki Isshin and the two returned to the room after the morning exercise, Kurosaki Masaki said to Kurosaki Isshin, "I'm going to prepare breakfast, and my dear, go and clean up the house and water the flowers by the way. Come on." He looked at him. Kurosaki Isshin nodded immediately after hearing it and said, "Oh, I see, I'll go now." After that, he walked to the bathroom to get water for the flowers. Kurosaki Masaki nodded when he saw this scene, and walked towards the kitchen. At this time, Ichigo also got up, and the Kurosaki sisters next to him looked at Ichigo very resentfully. The corner of Ichigo's mouth twitched when he saw this scene. Why do Kurosaki sisters see Ichigo like this? That's what happened a few minutes after Ichigo woke up. After waking up, Ichigo didn't want to wake the two of them, so he didn't get up and lay on the floor, didn't he? But not long after laying down, the Kurosaki sisters suddenly felt a movement on her body. At that time, he knew that the two of them must have woken up, but he didn't want to get up, so he pretended to sleep. 593 Thinking of this, Ichigo touched their hair vigorously, messed up their hairstyles, and said, "You two are really good, it's time to get up." Then he flicked their foreheads. The two of them angrily opened their eyes and looked at Ichigo, and they puffed out their mouths. Kurosaki shyly looked at Ichigo and said, "Ichigo-san, really, we are so angry with us now," and turned his face away. Of course Kurosaki Yuzu also stood on the same front as Kurosaki shyly, and then turned his face to the other side. After seeing this scene, Ichigo was very helpless, so he said to the two of them, "Okay, don't make trouble, it's time to get up now," and got up by himself. Advertisement. Of course, the Kurosaki sisters who were lying on top of Ichigo also collapsed beside Ichigo. Then the two of them looked at Ichigo, who got up and said coquettishly, "Are you lying down for a while?" They still held Ichigo's clothes while saying that. And Ichigo nodded their heads and said, "Okay, let's get up now, Mom and Dad, Yoruichi, and Sister Lai are all up." The Kurosaki sisters were still angry after hearing this, but Ichigo had no choice, so Ichigo picked them up directly and walked towards the implantation. The Kurosaki sisters, who were picked up by Ichigo, looked at Ichigo shyly, not knowing what to do now. But the two of them immediately understood what Ichigo meant. Since Ichigo started to pack up the floor after putting the two of them on the bed, of course they both understood what Ichigo was thinking. So the two of them threw some dolls at Ichigo angrily, and then said to Ichigo, Ichigo, brother, you fool." They ignored Ichigo and buried their faces on the bed instead of looking at Ichigo. Seeing this scene, Ichigo smiled helplessly, and then continued to pack up the floor. Soon Ichigo finished packing and looked at the Kurosaki sisters, but they were still muffled, so Ichigo reluctantly walked up to them and said to them, "Okay, don't be angry, I will take you two to the night. How about playing in the amusement park?" As he spoke, he patted the heads of the two of them. After hearing this, the two of them were very happy, but they didn't leak it, but got up and looked at Ichigo. Seeing the eyes of the two of them now, Ichigo is still helpless, because there is still no performance. 1. CGBE, Care thought about it and felt that it was right. Because the two of them are not children now, some of the rewards from children are useless. Advertisement. Just as he was about to withdraw his words, Kurosaki shyly said, "Ichigo-san wants to take us to the playground, then we both agree to you with mercy." Then he looked at Ichigo with the eyes you took advantage of. Kurosaki Yuzu next to him also looked at Ichigo like Kurosaki shyly, but Ichigo was amused when he saw Kurosaki Yuzu's appearance. Because she didn't learn anything at all, and she was a little cute. Of course, Ichigo didn't say anything, but looked at the two of them happily and said, "That's great." After saying that, they both shrank their heads back when they wanted to touch their heads. After seeing this scene, Ichigo felt that the two of them didn't really want to forgive Ichigo now, so he said to the two of them, "Okay, it's time to wash up now, or wait a minute, Mom, it's coming again," and then said he dragged them both towards the bathroom. At this time, the Kurosaki sisters did not struggle, but obediently walked with Ichigo to the bathroom and began to wash and straighten their hair. And because Ichigo doesn't need women to be so troublesome, he quickly finished washing up and went to the bed to start tidying up some of the bedding he just messed up. Of course, after Ichigo was done, the Kurosaki sisters came out after a while, and their hair was still a little wet, but it didn't affect their appearance. To say the least, the Kurosaki sisters are really different now from the original. Especially Kurosaki shyly. Because in the original, Kurosaki shyly dressed like a tomboy, but here she has this beautiful long black hair, tied into a ponytail, which looks very heroic. And Kurosaki Yuzu is not much different from the original, that is, her hair is much longer than the original, but she did not tie it up, but draped it, and now she looks less beautiful. Of course, the most important reason why the two of them have such hairstyles is also because of Ichigo. Ichigo is a long hair addict, so of course they all have long hair, and even Kurosaki Masaki has long hair now because of Ichigo's suggestion. The current Kurosaki Masaki looks very beautiful and young, which makes Kurosaki Masaki very happy. I was still a little unhappy when I saw the two of them coming out, and looked at Ichigo resentfully, causing what happened just now. Chapter 247. Breakfast. Along with the Ichigo and Kurosaki sisters came out, so did Yoruichi and Kono Hanaritsu. When Yoruichi saw Ichigo, he shouted, "Ichigo, wait a minute, let's go down together." Then he ran towards Ichigo. When Ichigo saw Yoruichi's actions, I like to say, "Really, no need to run." He flicked Yoruichi's forehead as he spoke. Yoruichi looked at Ichigo very pitifully, but Ichigo ignored her and looked at the egg Hana Lai, who came over and said, "How are you sleeping, Lai's sister?" Egg Huali was stunned after hearing Ichigo's words, because it was the first time she heard Ichigo call her sister Lai, so she was a little overwhelmed. But she immediately straightened up and said to Ichigo, "I'm resting well, Ichigo," and then hurried downstairs, went. Yoruichi was very pleased to see this scene, but immediately hid his expression, and then saw the Kurosaki sisters looking at Ichigo very resentfully, so asked, "How are you two?" After hearing Yoruichi's question, the two of them came to Yoruichi's side and told her about the morning. Yoruichi looked at them both helplessly after hearing this, but the joy in his eyes couldn't be stopped. Then he said to the two of them, "Okay, Ichigo has already promised to take you two to the amusement park, so let's go happily, and don't frown like this." Then he stroked the heads of the two of them. Hearing this, the Kurosaki sisters thought to themselves, "This is going to an amusement park with Ichigo, and you can't go there with a sullen face." Thinking of this, the Kurosaki sisters also had a smile on their faces. Advertisement Yoruichi, who saw this scene, also nodded and said, "That's the way it is, so don't forget to bring me and Sister Lai at night." He went downstairs without caring about the petrification of the two of them. The two of them did not expect that Yoruichi had planned this way, and then there would be no time to spend alone with Ichigo at night. Both of them thought so in their hearts. Even if Yoruichi and Kazuki don't go, Ichigo can't be alone with one of them, because the other person definitely wants to be alone with Ichigo. Then Ichigo saw that the Kurosaki sisters became even darker, and knew that Yoruichi's words just now must have done them a lot of damage. But the two of them were motionless now, so Ichigo had no choice but to pick them up and walk downstairs. After coming downstairs, Kurosaki Masaki saw Ichigo carrying the Kurosaki sisters down and said, "You two are really going back more and more now. Do you need your brother to carry you down even when you go downstairs?" The two of them recovered when they heard Kurosaki Masaki's words, and when they saw Ichigo holding them both, they both became shy and buried their faces in Ichigo's chest. And Kurosaki Ishin, who saw this scene, said with admiration, "Yuzu Shirley, you two have never acted coquettish to your father once since entering elementary school. This makes my father's heart hurt." Sukuru was acting there with a heartache. Kurosaki Masaki and the others have long been used to Kurosaki Ishin's things, so they ignored him at all, and Ovo Hanriru wanted to help after seeing this scene. But Yoruichi grabbed Uno Hanritsu's hand and said something to her secretly, so she ignored him immediately. Kurosaki Ishin felt very embarrassed when he saw that he had been acting here for a long time, and no one came to comfort him, not even the egg flower, so he immediately became serious and said, "I just want to let's see if my acting skills have regressed." After saying that, he went to the living room to watch TV. After the Kurosaki sisters regained their senses, Ichigo put them down and said to them, "Let's go to the playground together at night." After saying that, he slapped the two of them. Katakana middle dot flowers. The Kurosaki sisters and the two of them nodded obediently and watched TV in the living room. Of course Kurosaki Ishin just saw that the show was directly replaced by Kurosaki Shirley, and it was changed at a very critical juncture. Advertisement. Then Kurosaki Ishin complained to the two of them, but they both ignored him and watched their TV. Seeing this scene, Egg Jawali laughed very happily. After that, Ichigo asked Kurosaki Masaki, "Have you prepared breakfast? Need help?" Hearing this, Kurosaki Masaki was very happy and said, "No, I'm all ready. I'm almost ready to eat the soup," and walked towards the kitchen. When Ichigo saw it, he said to Yoruichi and Uno Hanari, "You two, sit down in the living room. I'll help," and then walked towards the kitchen. And Uno Hana Lee originally wanted to help, but Yoruichi said to her, "It's not very useful for us to go." After saying that, he took Uno Hana Lie to the living room and sat down. Kaoru Kono, who was sitting down, asked Yoruichi, "Why don't we go?" Yoruichi said, "Where we go now is just to take a place there, so everything Ichigo can solve, so we go there and just watch Ichigo do it." Hearing this, Egg Jawali also understood, so he quietly watched TV without saying anything. In the kitchen, Kurosaki Masaki came in and was busy cleaning up some of the stains left from making breakfast just now, and looking at the soup. After Ichigo came in, Kurosaki Masaki said to him, "I didn't say everything, I don't need it." Ichigo said to Kurosaki Masaki, "It's alright, I'm fine now anyway." After that, he started to help her. Chapter 248. Purpose. Soon the soup will be ready. Then Ichigo and Kurosaki Masaki brought breakfast to the table and said to them, "Come over to eat." All the people in the living room rushed over after hearing this, and Kurosaki Masaki said directly, "Have you washed it?" After saying that, she focused on the Kurosaki sisters. After seeing Kurosaki Masaki's gaze, the two of them nodded quickly, and when they saw the egg Hanaritsu here, they also laughed lightly. Soon Ichigo came out and said to them, "Okay, stop standing there, come and sit down and eat." Ichigo took a seat. Hearing this, Kurosaki Masaki stopped saying anything to the two of them and let them go and said, "Okay, let's all sit down." 597. Hearing this, the Kurosaki sisters were very happy and walked to the seat next to Ichigo, but the seat next to Ichigo was immediately occupied by Kurosaki Masaki Yoruichi, so the two of them were very dissatisfied, but they didn't say anything and sat next to Yoruichi, down. And Kurosaki Ishin sat next to Kurosaki Masaki, and Kurosaki Ishin sat next to Ovo Hanaritsu. Then Kurosaki Ishin said, "Let's eat." After saying that, Kurosaki Ishin started first. And the rest of the people ate as Kurosaki Ishin started eating. After taking a bite, Egg no Hana Lie praised Kurosaki Masaki. "Masaki-san, it's really delicious." Hearing Kazuno Galit's praise, she seldom said shyly, "No more," because it was the first time to hear such praise from an outsider. Kurosaki Masaki was also very happy. Then Kurosaki Masaki said, "Eat more if it's delicious." Hearing this, Egg Jawali also nodded, and then continued to eat. After that, the table was filled with the sound of eating, and there was no voice at all. After eating, Kurosaki Masaki asked, Ichigo, what are you going to do next? Hearing Kurosaki Masaki's question, everyone turned to Ichigo. Advertisement. Ichigo thought for a while and said, let's see them now, 35. Hearing this, Kurosaki Ishin also nodded and said, indeed, we should discuss it with them. Ichigo was very confused about what Ichigo and the others were talking about, but Kurosaki Ishin saw that Ichigo was puzzled and said, I'll find out when you go with Ichigo. After that, he smiled at Oguri, a bit. Seeing what Kurosaki Ishin looks like now, she knows it must be someone she knows. Otherwise Kurosaki Ishin wouldn't have leaked such a smile. After that, Walleye of Egg thought for a while, and thought of a few people who escaped from Soul Society. But she immediately felt that it shouldn't be. When she was about to ask Kurosaki Ishin, Ichigo said to her, let's go. Hearing that Egg Jawali also put away his curiosity, thinking that as long as he goes, he should know. Then to Kurosaki Ishin and Kurosaki Masaki, then I'll go with Ichigo. Yoruichi said to Ujiwali, Sister Lai, don't forget me too. 35 said and tickled Ujiwali's armpit. Eggflower Lai immediately begged for mercy and said, I was wrong, Yoruichi, let me go. Then he put his hands together and made a begging gesture for mercy. Yoruichi also let her go after seeing this scene. After seeing the exchange between the two of them, Ichigo also laughed and said, are you two in a good relationship now? Hearing this, Yoruichi directly hugged Unohanaru's shoulder and said, we are good sisters now. Egg Jawali also nodded. Although the two of them became sisters, Ichigo felt that it was very inconsistent. Because Yoruichi is a person with a very informal character, and Egg no Hana is a Yamato Nadeko's character, although it shows a little black belly in the original work. Advertisement. Seeing that Ichigo didn't quite believe it, he said to the flower of the egg, Ichigo, you don't seem to believe our words? 99. Hearing who Egg Jawali said directly, then there is no way, anyway, I can't make him believe it. Yoruichi didn't show any expression after hearing this, but looked at Ichigo very suspiciously and said, aren't we going now? Hearing this, Ichigo looked at Yoruichi speechlessly and said, aren't you two dragging here all the time? Then he looked at Yoruichi and the others with dissatisfaction. Yoruichi directly ignored Ichigo's eyes, while Unohanaru was a little overwhelmed. Yoruichi grabbed Unohanaritsu's hand and said, let's go first, leave Ichigo alone, and walked outside. I didn't expect Ichigo to bring a big man here this time. When Ichigo saw Yoruichi pulling the egg flower to go away, he looked at Kurosaki Ishin helplessly and said, then I'm leaving too. Then he looked at the Kurosaki sisters and said, I'm going to do something first, and bring it with me at night. Go to the playground, the two of you. Saying that, she nodded to Sister Kurosaki's forehead. Hearing the two of them, Ichigo nodded, then stroked their hair vigorously and left with their dissatisfied expressions. Then the three of them immediately came to the door of a warehouse. After seeing this place, Ujiwali glanced at Ichigo suspiciously, thinking what brought her here. And after coming outside, Ichigo nodded to Yoruichi and Unohana and left with Shunpo. Kurosaki Yuzu also said, brother, you have to pay attention to your body and don't be too tired. The Kurosaki sisters also knew that they could not hinder Ichigo from doing business, so Kurosaki shyly said, okay, we both know, but don't lie to us. 35. Yoruichi and Kono Hanaritsu followed behind Ichigo with Shunpo. But she immediately heard a familiar voice. Chapter 249. Come. Hearing the voice, Egg Jawali turned to look at the person who came. She was not surprised when she saw the person, but what revealed in her eyes was, it really is. And Hirako Shinji looked at the flower of the egg and continued, I don't know what the leader of the flower of the egg is here for. In the tone of his voice, he was very dissatisfied. Hearing this, Egg Jawali was not angry, but said helplessly, I just came with Ichigo, and looked at Ichigo speechlessly. Ichigo didn't react at all when he saw the look in Unohanaru's eyes. And Hirako Shinji looked at Ichigo after hearing Ajino Hanari's words, and Ichigo nodded at him. Seeing Ichigo nodding, Hirako Shinji was no longer embarrassed, and said, that's how it is, then let's come together. Then he went in first. Seeing this scene, Ichigo shook his head helplessly and followed. As for the remaining two, Yoruichi and Unohana, Yoruichi said to Uhan, come on, let's go in together. When I was talking about pulling U's hand, U's back. Step. 26. Yoruichi was very puzzled, and Yoruichi looked at Yoruichi and said, I think I'll wait for you outside. Yoruichi stopped her when she was walking to the side. Are you still guilty about their affairs? He said, looking at Egg Jihuli very seriously. After hearing this, Egg no Hanalai didn't want to answer, but when she saw Yoruichi's serious eyes, she nodded at Yoruichi. And Yoruichi said directly to the egg flower, you don't need to stop this matter on your own, because it's all Aizen's fault, so you don't need to do this. Speaking of which, he was very dissatisfied with the egg, Walleye said. After hearing this, Eggflowerlie said, I know it too, but it's my fault anyway, isn't it? Hearing this, Yoruichi stopped talking because what Kazuki said was also right. And Yoruichi sent a message to Ichigo when he saw that he had no way to convince the egg. After receiving Yoruichi's words, Ichigo smiled helplessly and said to Hirako Shinji next to him, Shinji, you go first, I'll call them both, and walked outside. Hirako Shinji was about to say something when he saw Ichigo walking outside, but finally opened his mouth and said nothing. Ichigo came out right away, and it was funny to see Yoruichi and Ichigo who were still staring at each other there. Advertisement. The two of them looked at Ichigo at the same time when they saw Ichigo coming out, and Ichigo put his eyes on Walleye Egg and said to her, "Sister Lie, let's come in together, it's not good for you to keep this matter on your mind." Just as Ichigo was about to say something else, Kaoru Egg suddenly said, "Okay, I'll go in." Hearing this, Ichigo stumbled because he didn't expect it to be solved like this. And Yoruichi was very dissatisfied, and he said a big sentence so hard, it was not as good as what Ichigo said to her, which made Yoruichi very dissatisfied. But she was not angry anymore, she just felt that she was not enough sisters. Immediately, she became vigilant again, because she was now sure that Eggflower Lie must have a good impression of Ichigo, and it was already to the point of falling in love. And Ichigo continued to say to the two of them, "Okay, then let's go in." Then he took a step forward and walked inside. Yoruichi also followed behind Ichigo, only Yoruichi looked at Unohana Retsu with dissatisfaction and thought about something. After entering, the people of the masked corps saw Ogi no Hanaru and their expressions were very serious, because they didn't really want to touch Shinigami now. And under Hirako Shinji's explanation, they also understood the purpose of the egg. Yoruichi has been thinking about things by the side, and Ichigo, who saw this scene, thinks that Yoruichi will not be angry. So immediately Shunpo came to Yoruichi's side, hugged her and said to her, "Yoruichi, what's wrong?" He looked at her with concern. Yoruichi came back to his senses after hearing Ichigo's words, looked at him and said, "It's alright, I'm just thinking about something." Then he gave you a look of peace of mind. After seeing this, Ichigo is not so nervous anymore. Yoruichi, who was on the side, was very happy to see that Ichigo cared about him so much. Yoruichi thinks that it is absolutely impossible for Ichigo to fall in love with others, but she is still worried that those women will come back to seduce Ichigo. Because Ichigo is a very good man, there is no guarantee that other women will seduce him. Then she looked at her own strength. Name: Shihouin Yoruichi, Hōgyoku. Advertisement 597 Gender: female. Age: 143. Spouse: Kurosaki Ichigo, Soul. Potential: Unlimited Ryotsu. Spirit King. Level 26 and 1,268,721 500,000 can be broken through. Zanpakuto. Night Fist. Final Solution. Physique: Dark Knight. Profound Body, Ordinary Level, can break through. Physical: Mortal, Spirit, King, Emperor, Immortal, God, Sage, Tao. Keto: King Shunpo, King Class Hollow, King Instant Open, King Rank. Slash: King Class. So she has a great advantage in strength, and she no longer worries about these things after thinking about her current relationship with Ichigo. Seeing her current strength, she felt very happy, because she knew that it was impossible for Egg Jawali to defeat her. Thor Battle Body. King Class. Combat Experience, King Class. White Hits. King Class Backpack. Character Fragments times 1,268,721, Intermediate Experience Beads times 20,000, Advanced Experience Beads times 19,000, Super Experience Beads times 18,000, Breakthrough Card times 600. Chapter 250. Schedule. Soon they all started chatting, and Ichigo saw that they were chatting quickly and said, "You guys can chat. I'll go out for a while," and then walked outside. And Yoruichi saw Ichigo go out and went out. Of course, she didn't care about Kamen Legion and Uno Hanari, because only Ichigo was the most important to Yoruichi. Of course, Ichigo's family, which is Yoruichi's family, is also added. When Yoruichi followed behind Ichigo and went out with him, no one reacted at all because it was normal, and they are all used to it now. It seems to them that Yoruichi will only help Ichigo, and the rest of the irrelevant people don't matter to Ichigo at all to her. Of course, they didn't care anymore, and instead talked about Soul Society with Eggflower Lie. But Egg Jawali has always been a little absent-minded. Of course, none of the men in the Masked Legion found out, but Yadomaru Lisa found out that Ovo Hanari was not very good. Of course, she didn't say it, because she thought it was better to leave her own business alone. After Ichigo came out, Shunpo went directly to the side of the sea, looking at the sea and felt very comfortable. Immediately, Yoruichi also came to Ichigo's side. Seeing how smooth he was now, he hugged Ichigo's arm coquettishly and said, "Don't take me out when you came out just now." He complained and pinched Ichigo's waist. "Stand up." Ichigo felt Yoruichi's emotions and didn't get angry, but he was very happy to hold Yoruichi in his arms and said, "Yoruichi, I am the luckiest thing to have a lover like you, now," and said to Yoruichi's a kiss on the forehead. Yoruichi was very shy when he heard Ichigo's words and said, "Why do you suddenly say something so embarrassing?" He buried his face in Ichigo's arms. And Ichigo directly hugged Yoruichi with the princess hug, and Shunpo came to the beach, looking at the sea very happy. Advertisement. Yoruichi felt relieved when he saw the sea, and then shrank even more into Ichigo's arms. Ichigo flicked his hand, and there was a lounge chair on the beach that could accommodate the two of them, and a smaller table with the fruit and drinks. Of course, no one else exists in this place, otherwise Ichigo wouldn't have been transformed so openly. Then Ichigo put Yoruichi on the reclining chair and lay down beside her. But she immediately lay down on Ichigo's body again, and drew circles to Ichigo's chest. Ichigo didn't say anything after feeling it, but stroked Yoruichi's hair very affectionately, and said to Yoruichi, "It's good to have you by my side all the time." After Yoruichi heard it, he directly sealed Ichigo's mouth, and of course, this seal was also sealed with his own mouth. Ichigo didn't say anything after seeing it, but hugged Yoruichi hard, as if to integrate Yoruichi into his body. And Yoruichi was very happy. They kissed for about 10 minutes before Ichigo and Yoruichi separated. Of course they both wanted to continue, but Ichigo didn't want to have a fight with his own woman. Because he doesn't want to make such a bold attempt now, no matter what, he can only do it after one thing has passed. Ichigo put Yoruichi's head on his chest, made her listen to her heartbeat and said, "Yoruichi, after Aizen's matter is settled, let's get married." 39. Hearing this, Yoruichi was dumbfounded, and kept staring at Ichigo. Advertisement. Ichigo smiled when she saw it, and flicked Yoruichi's forehead, and she immediately came to her senses. After regaining her senses, she did it directly on Ichigo's body, looked at Ichigo and said seriously, "Is this all true?" Yoruichi even burst into tears. When Ichigo saw it, he got up and hugged Yoruichi with pity and said, "Don't cry. This is a good thing. How can you cry?" Hearing this, Yoruichi wiped his tears and said, "I know it's a good thing, but the tears just can't stop flowing, really." When Ichigo saw it, he smiled and said, "Okay, I see, let's just lie down for a while." Then he hugged Yoruichi and lay down on the reclining chair. And Yoruichi is also very relieved now, because only in front of Ichigo can Yoruichi leak such an expression. Hearing Yoruichi's words, Ichigo smiled and said, "It's nothing, we are happy now, so it's okay to keep some tears." He kissed Yoruichi's tears cherishingly. Seeing Yoruichi's attractive appearance, Ichigo kissed Yoruichi's face and said, "Of course it's true, I hope to have the most beautiful wedding with my lovely Yoruichi." Yoruichi stopped crying immediately under Ichigo's love words, and when he felt Ichigo kissing his tears, he said coquettishly, "Don't do this." Then he hammered Ichigo's chest. Lee Nujao and Yoruichi looked at him in Ichigo's arms and said, "Ichigo, is what I just said true?" He looked at Ichigo Yang with anticipation. Ichigo is very happy to see how cute Yoruichi is now. Soon Yoruichi actually fell asleep, and was pulling his mouth from time to time. Hearing this, Yoruichi immediately happily said to Ichigo, "I love you the most." Then he buried his face in Ichigo's arms. Chapter 251. Opinions. While Ichigo and Yoruichi are enjoying their world, where are the Kurosaki sisters on the other side? They're busy. The Kurosaki sisters took their mother Kurosaki Masaki to the side after Ichigo and the others went out and talked about Ichigo taking them to the amusement park. Kurosaki Masaki was also very happy when he heard that, so he said to the two of them, "It's a good thing. You two can get along well with Ichigo," and then caressed their hair while revealing that she was very happy. Kurosaki shyly said as soon as she finished, "It's true, but..." Before Kurosaki shyly finished speaking, Kurosaki Yuzu said, "But Yoruichi-san and Lai-san are going." Kurosaki shyly didn't get angry when he heard Kurosaki Yuzu's words, but nodded at Kurosaki Masaki. Kurosaki Masaki knew the problem after hearing this, but she didn't think it was more serious than 597 now. She said, "There is no way for Yoruichi and Retsu to go there. Yoruichi is Ichigo's girlfriend, and Retsu is a guest, so let's just order it." While speaking, he comforted them both. After they heard it, they didn't care so much anymore. They both thought in their hearts, "Anyway, Sister Lai will leave soon, and there will be a chance to be alone with Ichigo brother, in the future." Thinking of this, the two of them don't care so much anymore, but let it go. But the two of them immediately turned to Kurosaki Masaki again. "Then can mom come to our room?" Kurosaki Masaki agreed, of course, because she loved her children very much. Although it is a bit harsh, it is also for the sake of the child's future. Kurosaki Ishin kept eavesdropping, but couldn't hear a single sound, because Kurosaki Masaki blocked their CGBE voices with Ryotsu, so Kurosaki Ishin didn't hear it. Advertisement. But Kurosaki Ishin is getting closer and closer to Kurosaki Masaki, so the Kurosaki sisters and both of them have discovered Kurosaki Ishin. So Kurosaki Yuzu immediately pointed at Kurosaki Ishin and said, "Dad, please stop eavesdropping." Of course Kurosaki shyly noticed it, and said directly to Kurosaki Ishin's poisonous tongue, "Uncle Pervert is more pervert now." Even Kurosaki Masaki walked towards Kurosaki Ishin with a gloomy face, and then looked at Kurosaki Ishin with a very splendid expression and said, "Honey, can you come over here?" 35. He ignored them and turned towards them both. "Room gone." And Kurosaki Ishin explained to Kurosaki Masaki in horror, "I didn't hear anything, I really didn't hear anything." Although he said this, Kurosaki Masaki didn't seem to let him go at all. "Is faster." Kurosaki Ishin grabbed the door and looked at the Kurosaki sisters as he was about to enter the room and said, "Come and save daddy," and held out a hand to them. But the two of them spoke to themselves as if they hadn't heard them. Seeing this, Kurosaki Ishin became discouraged, and Kurosaki Masaki slapped Kurosaki Ishin's hand holding the door at this moment. Because of the pain, the door was released, then he was pulled in. The back door was closed, and the Kurosaki sisters heard a ping-pong sound and Kurosaki Ishin begging for mercy. But no sound was heard right away, Then Kurosaki Masaki came out in a very smooth mood and watched the Kurosaki sisters wave their hands and came out. The Kurosaki sisters wanted to take a look inside, but Kurosaki Masaki closed the door immediately, so the two of them didn't say anything. Kurosaki Masaki said to the two of them, "Okay, let's go to your room now." Then he pulled them both upstairs. Advertisement. The Kurosaki sisters had no choice but to follow after seeing it. After entering the room, Kurosaki Masaki looked at the two of them and said, "So, what's the matter?" Kurosaki shyly said, "We want Mom to help us choose what to wear to the amusement park at night," and looked at Kurosaki Masaki eagerly. Kurosaki Yuzu is also looking forward to seeing Kurosaki Masaki, hoping to give a suggestion and opinion. Kurosaki Masaki was speechless when she heard this, but she decided to help the two of them anyway. Because she is her lovely daughter, of course she has to help. So the two of them started trying on clothes to show Kurosaki Masaki. Ichigo went on to say, "Of course." Ichigo turned his attention to Yoruichi after saying that. Yoruichi looked at Ichigo and said, "I'm going to the amusement park at night, just the three of you. Sister Lai and I are at home waiting for you to come back." Yoruichi also looked at Ichigo and their eyes met. On the other side, Ichigo and Yoruichi were still lying and looking at the sea. Hearing this, Ichigo didn't say anything anymore, so he quietly hugged Yoruichi and looked into the distance, and Yoruichi also looked into the distance. Yoruichi asked back, "Do you want me to go?" Yoruichi looked at it for a while and said, "Forget it, we will have many opportunities in the future." Hearing this, Ichigo said, "Aren't you going?" while looking at the clouds in the distance. Of course Yoruichi woke up too, but she couldn't get up from snuggling in Ichigo's arms all the time, and Ichigo was very happy too. Chapter 252, 2 World 1. Soon it was noon, and Ichigo and Yoruichi looked at the sun hanging in the sky. Ichigo said to Yoruichi, "How about we go to the sun that day?" Yoruichi was also very interested after hearing it and said, "Yes, I'm looking forward to it." Then Ichigo continued, "It's time for us to go back too, or they'd have to call too." He picked up Yoruichi and got off the recliner. Yoruichi looked at him and said, "No, I still want to stay with Ichigo all the time." He was still coquettish in Ichigo's arms. Seeing this scene, Ichigo was helpless. "Because I didn't know what to do," I said to Yoruichi. "Okay, I know, then I'll call them first and talk about it." 35 After that, put Yoruichi back on the reclining chair, pick up the phone and call them called out. After the call was connected, Ichigo said, "Yoruichi and I will not be going back at noon, so let's eat yourselves." After chatting with Hiriko Shinji for a while, we hung up. And Yoruichi jumped into Ichigo's arms after seeing this and said, "I love you the most, it's so nice to me." Hearing this, Ichigo smiled. Then he pinched Yoruichi's nose and said, "So what are we going to eat now?" Yoruichi looked at Ichigo and said, "I just want to eat Ichigo and make steak." Then he kissed Ichigo minus on the face. After hearing this, Ichigo nodded and said, "Of course you can." Then he took the house out of the system space. When Yoruichi saw it, he got up from the reclining chair, put all the things he took out earlier into the system space, and then took Ichigo's hand and walked into the house. After entering the house, Yoruichi said, "Do you need my help?" He leaned his body against Ichigo's body. Ichigo looked at Yoruichi and said, "Okay, let's go to rest, I'll just prepare." Advertisement. When Yoruichi heard it, he said, "No, I'm going to help you." Then he approached Ichigo. After seeing Yoruichi's actions, Ichigo said helplessly, "Come if you want." Then he walked towards the kitchen. Yoruichi was very happy to hear that, because Ichigo accepted his help. Yoruichi walked into the room after hearing it, because he wanted to change his clothes. After Ichigo came to the kitchen, Ichigo washed his hands, then took out the prepared beef tenderloin from the refrigerator and thawed it in the microwave. Of course, it was not all thawed. After it softened a little, I took it out and cut the meat for steak. What Ichigo is doing now is filet mignon, so I cut the meat on the left. Put the rest of the meat back in the refrigerator after cutting. Ichigo sprinkles pepper on both sides of the cut steak, spreads sea salt evenly, drizzles with olive oil and marinates. Then start preparing for other things. Eating only one thing felt too monotonous, so Ichigo went back to preparing pasta and salad. At this time, Yoruichi also finished changing and came to the kitchen. Seeing Yoruichi's outfit, Ichigo blushed with shyness. Because Ichigo is wearing erotic lingerie and an apron, Ichigo is very excited to see. Although Ichigo has also seen such a video in the original world, it is the first time that I have encountered such a situation. So Ichigo accidentally spilled the noodles he just took out. Yoruichi, who saw this scene, was surprised, but more interesting and happy. Advertisement. Because this was the second time Yoruichi saw Ichigo like this, Yoruichi wanted to tease Ichigo. Yoruichi came to Ichigo very sexy, hugged Ichigo and said, "Am I beautiful now?" He bit Ichigo's earlobe as he spoke. "For flowers." After feeling this, Ichigo blushed and fainted. Because in the original world, Ichigo was a person who was easily shy and was not used to talking to others. Although Ichigo's situation improved after he came to this world, he mostly pretended to be cold and avoided talking to others in this way. And Ichigo also recovered his spirits under Yoruichi's actions, but he still didn't dare to look directly at Yoruichi, and his eyes kept looking elsewhere. So Yoruichi hugged Ichigo directly and said excitedly, "So cute, Ichigo looks like now." Yoruichi was stunned when she saw that Ichigo fainted, because she didn't know that Ichigo was still so shy. Of course, Yoruichi was very happy to see Ichigo wake up, but when he was about to say something, Ichigo blushed again and his eyes were rolling, so he was about to faint. He said to Ichigo, "Don't get dizzy, don't get dizzy," and then beat Ichigo's chest a few times. And Ichigo was as if his head was short-circuited after being hugged, and he remained motionless. So now Ichigo faints when he sees Yoruichi wearing this to tempt him. But she knew right away that she had gone too far, so she immediately came to Ichigo's side, picked up Ichigo, went to the living room, put Ichigo on the sofa, and then started calling him. With Ichigo's current state, of course, he woke up immediately, and when he saw Yoruichi still wearing attractive clothes, he immediately blushed, and he had a tendency to faint. Of course, Ichigo's actions are now watched by Yoruichi, and Yoruichi's actions are very funny and cute in Yoruichi's eyes. Chapter 253. Two Worlds 2. And after Yoruichi hugged Ichigo, Ichigo short-circuited directly, and even fainted in Yoruichi's arms. Yoruichi felt Ichigo leaning on his shoulder, and it was hardly surprising. Then after taking a look at Ichigo, seeing that Ichigo fainted, I knew that she was really a little bit. Of course these are all good things, because how could Yoruichi be happy if things were bad? Yoruichi has now finally found a weakness in Ichigo, so Yoruichi is very happy. Of course, Yoruichi couldn't tell anyone about this weakness, and of course Ichigo couldn't tell anyone either. Because of 597, Yoruichi knew that Ichigo must not be able to tell others how shameful he was. Then Yoruichi put Ichigo's head on his thigh, looked at Ichigo very affectionately, and started to stroke Ichigo's hair. Ichigo soon woke up because he felt that he was being touched all the time. Ichigo was excited to see that Yoruichi was still dressed up and put him on Yoruichi's lap. He was about to faint, but Ichigo held on to it with perseverance, but his face was still red. Yoruichi was amused when he saw Ichigo's blushing face, but he couldn't help laughing and looked at Ichigo and said, "Why don't you feel dizzy now?" Then he kissed Ichigo's forehead. Ichigo saw her and said directly to her, "How could I be defeated so easily?" When he was about to get up, Yoruichi pressed Ichigo down directly, preventing him from getting up. Advertisement. Ichigo looked at Yoruichi blushing and said, "Okay Yoruichi, I'm going to the kitchen to cook now." Yoruichi pressed him down when he was about to get up. When Ichigo saw it, he looked at Yoruichi helplessly and said, "How can I let me go?" His face was very red. Yoruichi wanted to play around when he saw Ichigo's current appearance, and said, "I now hope that I can wear a dress I specified and show it to me in the future." He looked at Ichigo excitedly. Ichigo's blushing eased after hearing this, but it was still very red. Ichigo looked at Yoruichi and said, "Okay, I got it," and blushed again. When Yoruichi saw that Ichigo had compromised, he was very happy and said, "This is really good." He didn't imprison Ichigo anymore, and let Ichigo go. After Ichigo was released, he gasped for breath, gave Yoruichi a dissatisfied look, and immediately returned to the kitchen. Yoruichi said to Ichigo after seeing Ichigo returning to the room, "I'll go to the room to choose clothes, my dear, you should be busy first," 35 said and walked towards the room. And Ichigo, who was preparing pasta inside, was very horrified after hearing Yoruichi's words. But after I felt it with Ryotsu, I felt that Yoruichi was in the room and let out a sigh of relief. Ichigo starts to prepare pasta. Add the beef to the pot and fry until it changes color, add the ham and fry together, fry over medium heat for 5 minutes, add the seasoning, turn to low heat and cook. Then he looked at his marinated steak and saw that the clock next to him was almost up, so he took out the steak. Advertisement. Ichigo then saw that the pan was smoking and knew it was all right, so he put the steak in and spread it with butter. Then it was fried in the pan, and after 56 minutes of frying, Ichigo took the steak out and put it on the plate. And Ichigo drizzled lemon juice over the steak and set it aside to prepare the salad. Take out the prepared yellow peach, cucumber, pineapple, pear, sakura peach tomato, lettuce and salad dressing and start cutting the prepared vegetables and fruits. Then Ichigo put all the things he made on the dining table and said to Yoruichi, "Come to eat." After cutting the vegetables and fruits, put them in a bowl and mix well, pour the salad dressing on top, and put them next to the steak. Since the salad is the easiest, it's done in no time. But because the system is ready again, then put the noodles on a plate, and pour the meat sauce on it, sprinkle with cheese, and then the pasta is ready. Because cooking meat sauce is the most time-consuming, Ichigo uses the difference between the system space and the external flow rate to make the meat sauce in 1 second. Then I looked at the meat sauce being boiled in my pot, and I saw that I almost added the chopped vegetables and minced meat to the seasoning, mixed well and started to cook. After speaking, Ichigo regretted a little, because he didn't know what kind of clothes Yoruichi would make Ichigo wear, so Ichigo was a little overwhelmed. But Yoruichi's voice sounded, "I'll come down now." Then put 1,500 milliliters of water and a tablespoon of salt into another pot, boil it, put in the noodles 1.4 and start to cook. Chapter 254. Two Worlds 3. Yoruichi had already thought about what clothes to wear to Ichigo at this time, so he decided to let Ichigo wear it and show her after eating. Yoruichi walked down happily after hearing Ichigo calling her. Of course, Yoruichi is still wearing the one that made Ichigo shy, but the only difference is the color. And soon Yoruichi came down and saw Ichigo sitting at the dinner table and said, "Ichigo, look at me." Hearing Yoruichi's coquettish words, Ichigo was helpless and turned to look at Yoruichi. After seeing Yoruichi's current outfit, Ichigo was very surprised. Of course, there was no expression on his face. He looked at Yoruichi very flatly and said, "Oh, I changed my clothes." Then he turned around. Yoruichi was very dissatisfied when she saw Ichigo's bland appearance, but she thought, it shouldn't be. Ichigo was very shy just now. Why don't you care now? Yoruichi walked over to the dining table with doubts. And after Ichigo turned around after talking to you, his face turned red, but Ichigo immediately suppressed it with willpower. And hearing Yoruichi approaching him step by step, Ichigo was very nervous. This made Ichigo, Yoruichi's husband, very dissatisfied. Yoruichi was Ichigo's wife, and he fainted when he saw his wife seduce him. This made Ichigo very unwilling and made Ichigo very humiliated. And when Yoruichi walked up to Ichigo and sat down, Ichigo said, "Yoruichi, eat more." Ichigo started first. Advertisement Yoruichi became even more curious after seeing this scene, because when Yoruichi and Ichigo were eating, Ichigo would always feed Yoruichi before eating by himself. But the current Ichigo actually ate it first, which made Yoruichi very suspicious. But immediately Yoruichi saw Ichigo's red ears and knew why. Yoruichi deliberately seduced Ichigo, under seal. Not to be outdone, Ichigo fought back after seeing it, but somehow, Ichigo was still at a disadvantage. Probably because of Ichigo's blushing face and bewildered eyes. Yoruichi let go of Ichigo after kissing for a long time, and then said to Ichigo, "I want you to feed." Then he sat on Ichigo's lap, and looked at Ichigo with cute eyes. And when Ichigo was sitting on Yoruichi's lap, Ichigo blushed even more when he felt the softness from his thigh. But immediately Ichigo used willpower to suppress everything just now, and then his face recovered. It's still a little red, but it's okay. Soon after Ichigo came to his senses, he started cutting the steak and feeding it to Yoruichi. Of course, I cut my own steak for Yoruichi first, and from time to time I brought some pasta and salad for Yoruichi to eat. Advertisement soon Ichigo finished feeding Yoruichi, and when he started to eat his own food, Yoruichi said, "Honey, let me feed you." He started cutting the steak no matter what he said or not. After seeing this scene, Ichigo also smiled helplessly. But he didn't reject her either. He watched Yoruichi quietly, cut the steak for himself, and then fed the steak. Soon the whole meal for both of them was over, and it took a long time, but they were both very happy eating 600. But soon Ichigo was no longer tangled, and went inside instead, because Ichigo knows, Yoruichi will never cheat on his lover. Because I don't know if I should move or not, and I don't know what kind of clothes to wear. This troubled Ichigo. Yoruichi wanted to help, but Ichigo didn't need her to help, so Yoruichi went back to the room and waited for Ichigo to arrive. Ichigo quickly cleaned up everything, and when he got to the door of the room, Ichigo didn't move. Even Ichigo is now slightly immune and Yoruichi is now dressed. Then Ichigo said to Yoruichi, "I'm going to clean up the dining table, you go back to the room first. I'll be here in a moment," and began to clean up. Yoruichi was also happy to see that Ichigo did not reject herself. Chapter 255. Two Worlds IV. After Ichigo opened the door and went in, he was delighted to see Yoruichi looking at a piece of clothing. When Ichigo saw Yoruichi's appearance, he was speechless and said, "Is it so beautiful?" Yoruichi came back to his senses after hearing this and said, "Of course, this is what I chose carefully." Then he took out a men's tuxedo. Ichigo was surprised to see this tuxedo because Ichigo had never seen it in the closet. That is to say, this dress was bought by Yoruichi for Ichigo. Looking at Yoruichi, Ichigo was very moved and asked, "Is this for me?" Yoruichi looked at Ichigo and nodded with a smile. As soon as Ichigo saw it, he came to Yoruichi and hugged her and said, "You are so kind to me." Yoruichi was also very happy when he heard it, but Ichigo immediately let go of her and said, "So are the rest of these clothes bought for me?" Then he looked at the plastic bags and clothes all over the floor. Yoruichi was very embarrassed when he heard that, so he opened Shikai and released it. Ichigo was also speechless after hearing Yoruichi's explanation. It turns out that when Yoruichi bought clothes for Ichigo, because he didn't know what kind of clothes to choose, he bought all the clothes that looked better for him. Then I picked it up for Ichigo, but after picking it up, I forgot to clean it up. Yoruichi looked at Ichigo and said, "Then are you angry?" He even acted coquettishly at Ichigo. Advertisement Ichigo looked at Yoruichi, then nodded Yoruichi's head and said, "Of course not, you are my favorite cutie." He kissed Yoruichi's forehead. Yoruichi was very happy after hearing Ichigo's words, but immediately looked at Ichigo suspiciously and said, "Hey, Ichigo, you are not shy now." He looked at Ichigo's face very seriously. Hearing Yoruichi's words, Ichigo immediately reacted. Yoruichi is still wearing the same clothes as before. Thinking of this, Ichigo was a little dizzy, and Yoruichi hugged Ichigo immediately after seeing it and said, "Don't faint, Ichigo," and shook Ichigo. This move really had some effect, and Ichigo recovered a bit. But because Ichigo was in front of Yoruichi, he fainted immediately after seeing Yoruichi's current appearance. Because the current Yoruichi doesn't know why, the appearance of the clothes slipping down is very attractive, so Ichigo fell on the current Yoruichi and fainted. Yoruichi was helpless when he saw that Ichigo fainted. But she immediately put Ichigo on the bed and took off Ichigo's coat. Yoruichi started to pack up the clothes that were all over the room. There was a lot of clothes in the room, but Yoruichi quickly cleaned up. Then he went to bed and lay beside Ichigo watching him quietly. Then Yoruichi unconsciously started to think about himself and Ichigo, and also laughed from time to time. Yoruichi immediately realized his strangeness, so he covered his mouth with a bit of blush. If Ichigo sees this scene, Ichigo will definitely hug Yoruichi and say, "Honey, you are so cute, I unconsciously want to take care of you." Of course Ichigo hasn't woken up yet. After that, Yoruichi suddenly looked at Ichigo and let out a sigh of relief when he saw that Ichigo hadn't woken up yet. Advertisement Yoruichi now moved closer to Ichigo, and then looked at Ichigo seriously. Looking at Ichigo's face involuntarily, he said, "You are really attractive." Then Ichigo immediately opened his mouth and said, "Of course, otherwise I can get your favor myself." He opened his eyes and looked at Yoruichi. Yoruichi was startled when he heard it, but he immediately thumped Ichigo and said, "You lied to me by pretending to be sleeping." He said goodbye. When Ichigo heard it, he immediately said, "No, I just woke up, but I didn't expect you to say such a thing, so I couldn't help answering it." Yoruichi continued, "You think it was intentional, otherwise how could it be so coincidental?" Hearing this, Ichigo knew that it was impossible to convince Yoruichi, so he said, "Ha, I did it on purpose. How are you going to punish me, my princess?" and then got up and made a knight to Yoruichi present. Because Ichigo has read this kind of book and practiced it on others, Ichigo still has a lot of experience. After seeing this scene, Ichigo said helplessly, "Okay, I see." Then he sat next to Yoruichi and started massaging her. First place the right hand on the side of the massaged person's left wings, buttocks, while the left hand presses the massaged person's back, and gently shakes the muscles of the massaged body with the palm of your hand. Continue to shake, from the left hip to the shoulder position, and then from the right hip to the shoulder position. Use the rocking massage technique to massage back and forth, which can help the massaged. Yoruichi said proudly after feeling it, "Ichigo, you can even massage, as expected of my lover." Yoruichi was very happy when he saw Ichigo's good manners and said, "I'll punish you for giving me a massage." Then he took off his apron and lay down on his back. Yoruichi was happy and shy to hear Ichigo's words. Hearing Yoruichi's words, Ichigo was very happy, but pressed on and said, "Of course, I did it for you. Relax your body muscles." Seeing that Yoruichi was no longer talking, Ichigo said, "I'll continue," and started the next massage. Chapter 256. Two Worlds 5. When Ichigo massaged Yoruichi, Yoruichi closed his eyes quietly, and then enjoyed the bliss. After Ichigo pressed for more than 20 minutes, Ichigo asked Yoruichi, "How is it now?" 35. But Yoruichi didn't respond at all. Ichigo was surprised and looked at Yoruichi. It turned out that Yoruichi was already asleep and pouting. This made Ichigo amused so much that Ichigo swiped Yoruichi's nose. Yoruichi seemed to feel the touch on his nose, so he touched his nose with his hand and went back to sleep. Seeing this, Ichigo even thought that Yoruichi was too cute, and then Ichigo gently covered Yoruichi with a blanket, kissed Yoruichi's forehead, and then went to bed lightly, lying next to Yoruichi. Ichigo was very happy to see Yoruichi sleeping, and his eyes were filled with happiness. Then Ichigo closed his eyes beside Yoruichi and remembered all the things that happened since he came to this world. After coming to this world, Ichigo was happiest when he became the child of Kurosaki Ichigo and his wife, and became the older brother of the Kurosaki sisters. But what makes Ichigo happiest is, of course, being Yoruichi's lover. Ichigo finds it interesting when he thinks about all his experiences from childhood to adulthood. Then Ichigo opened the attribute interface and looked at his current attributes. Name: Kurosaki Ichigo, Hōgyoku, S*X. Male age: 15. Spouse: Shihouin Yoruichi, soul, potential, unlimited. Ryatsu: Spirit King, level 26 and 1,668,721 500,000 can be broken through. Zanpakuto: the perfect Zanjetsu, final solution, physique. Tianquan battle physique, ordinary level, can break through, physical. Mortal, spirit, king, emperor, immortal, god, sage, Dao. Kido: King Shunpo, King class advertisement white hits, King class. Slash: King class combat experience, King class crescent moon sky chong, King level. Crack sky flash, King class moonless, King class. Hollow: King backpack. Character fragments times 1,668,721, intermediate experience beads times 40,000, advanced experience beads times 19,000, super experience beads times 18,000, breakthrough card times 600. Seeing his current attributes, Ichigo is very satisfied. Although Ichigo can improve his strength now, Ichigo still does not do it. Because when you meet someone who is stronger than you, if you add a little breakthrough to others, then that person's expression must be very funny. Of course, this is also part of Ichigo's darker character. Ichigo is starting to think about it now. It's time to visit that world after you've finished playing all of this world. He's now targeting One Piece and Hokage Ninja. Since both worlds are more interesting worlds, Ichigo wants to go to that world first. And the abilities in these two worlds are more interesting, such as Devil Fruit, Hockey, Pupil and so on. So Ichigo wanted to go to these two worlds to see and absorb their strengths by the way. Because of CGBE, there are many merits in other worlds. When I think of this, Ichigo not only thinks, but I must go to the fantasy world and the myth world to see it in the future. And by the way, some tragedies are changed. Because there are a lot of tragedies in some animes, Ichigo hopes to change it, of course, not only in the world of anime, but also in other worlds. After thinking about this, Ichigo looked at Yoruichi. Because Yoruichi is a necessary person to accompany Ichigo in the 10,000 worlds. And because of Ichigo's character that doesn't allow others to take advantage of it, of course, Yoruichi won't let Yoruichi stay in Shinigami's world alone. Advertisement because Ichigo has read a lot of stories about the protagonist who neglected his lover because he wanted to improve his strength, which led to others taking advantage of it, so Ichigo would never let such a thing happen. Thinking of this, Ichigo's eyes became firm when he looked at Yoruichi. Then Ichigo looked at Yoruichi's attributes. Name: Shihouin Yoruichi, Hōgyoku. Gender: female. Age: 143. Spouse: Kurosaki Ichigo, Soul. Potential: unlimited Ryatsu. Spirit King: level 26 and 1,668,721 500,000 can be broken through. Zanpakuto: Night Fist. Final Solution: Physique: Dark Knight. Profound Body, ordinary level, can break through. Physical: Mortal, Spirit, King, Emperor, Immortal, God, Sage, Tao. Keto: King Shunpo, King Class. White Hits, King Class. Slash: King Class. Combat Experience, King Class. Instant Open, King Rank. Thor Battle Body: King Class. Hollow, King Backpack. Character Fragments times 1,668,721, Intermediate Experience Beads times 40,000, Advanced Experience Beads times 19,000, Super Experience Beads times 18,000, Breakthrough Card times 600. Seeing similar attributes to his own, Ichigo nodded reassuringly. Because strength is the foundation of all worlds. Without strong strength, he will be ravaged by others at will in myriad realms, so Ichigo's pursuit of strength is still great. But it's too far to think about these future things now, so Ichigo didn't think about anything, just closed his eyes and lay down quietly beside Yoruichi. Chapter 257. The end of the two worlds. When Ichigo and Yoruichi were lying together and closed their eyes, Yoruichi suddenly opened his eyes and looked at Ichigo. Seeing that Ichigo was still sleeping with his eyes closed, he kissed Ichigo's mouth, and then closed his eyes immediately. And Ichigo opened his eyes after feeling Yoruichi's kiss and looked at Yoruichi. Seal. On the other hand, Hiriko, Shinji and the others had been sitting in the base of the warehouse after eating, looking very bored. Everyone seems to be bored to the extreme. Hiriko Shinji looked at everyone's expressions and said, "How about we go shopping in the mall now?" Hearing Hiriko Shinji's words, everyone was excited. Especially Sarugaki Hiyori and Kuna Mashiro. Sarugaki Hiyori: "It's long overdue, bald, that's why we're so bored now." Kuna Mashiro said, "It's great, so you can see beautiful and cute clothes." And Egg Jawali was speechless when she heard their words. Because it's just shopping, you don't need to be so happy. Of course, this was what Egg Jawali said in his heart, and he didn't say it. But Yadomaru Lisa next to her saw Egg Jawali's speechlessness and said to her, "Because we don't go shopping often, and we rarely go shopping because of economic problems." Advertisement at this time, Love Akawa said, "But because Ichigo became our partner and sponsored us a lot of expenses, our life has become very fulfilling now." Yadomaru Lisa nodded when she saw what the person was saying, and said to Walleye Egg, "Yes," and immediately continued, "But Luo Wu, don't interrupt other people's words in the future." Then he looked at him sharply. Love Akawa smiled apologetically when she saw Yadomaru Lisa's words and left. After hearing this, Eggflower Lie nodded with a smile. Yadomaru Lisa smiled when she saw it. On the other side, after 2 hours of fighting, the two of them stopped. Then Yoruichi lay down on Ichigo's chest and said to Ichigo, "I love you the most," and drew circles on Ichigo's chest. Ichigo looked at Yoruichi and said, "I love you too." Ichigo looked at the time now, it was after 3 o'clock in the afternoon, so he said to Yoruichi, "Okay, we should go back now, or Yuzu Shirley will say something." Yoruichi also nodded after hearing that. Then Ichigo and Yoruichi tidied up after being warm for half an hour and got up. Going outside the house, Ichigo put the house into system space, then took Yoruichi's hand and said, "Let's go now." 39. Hearing Ichigo's words, Yoruichi nodded, and then Yoruichi was picked up by Ichigo's princess and walked towards the masked army. And the direction of Ichigo and Yoruichi is the mall. Because the masked core people went shopping, Ichigo went somewhere after feeling their Ryatsu. Advertisement. For flowers. And the people from the Masked Legion are very excited to go shopping at the mall now. Even the flower of the egg cannot be avoided. Soon Ichigo carried Yoruichi into an alley next to the mall, because he would cause a commotion when he was directly exposed to others. After Ichigo put down Yoruichi, he said to her, "Want to buy something?" He scratched Yoruichi's nose. When Yoruichi heard it, he was very happy and said, "Look, if you see what you want, buy it." Then he stepped forward to hold Ichigo's arm and walked towards the mall. Point 00 And after Ichigo and Yoruichi entered the mall, Hirako, Shinji and the others found Ichigo and the two of them. Entering the mall, this mall is relatively high-end, so there are still a lot of high-end products. Hearing Hirako Shinji's words, they nodded and started to wander around on their own. Ichigo nodded after hearing Yoruichi's words. Because Ichigo and Yoruichi rarely come to such a mall, Yoruichi is very happy and curious here, always looking left and right like a child. Of course, this is what Ichigo and Yoruichi deliberately let them find out, otherwise it would be impossible to find out with their strength. Then Ichigo accompanied Yoruichi and started walking around here. Didn't go to Ichigo and Yoruichi after they found them because Hirako Shinji said, "Let's just hang out, we'll see them both in a while." Ichigo is also very happy to see Yoruichi like this. Chapter 258. Shopping. Then while Ichigo and Yoruichi were walking around, I saw someone I knew. A girl looked eagerly at the bear doll in the toy store. The girl was wearing a white velvet hat with two wide pieces of fluff, long purple-red hair tied into double ponytails, with long bangs that covered her forehead, but with long bangs on the right side near the ear, and a girl with red eyes. This is the girl in the original book who has this full display, and is also a member of Execution, called Poison Peak Lelouka. Her ability is very interesting in the original book, which attracted some attention from Ichigo. Yoruichi saw that Ichigo was staring at the girl and asked, "Do you know that girl?" When Ichigo heard Yoruichi's words, 600, he came back to his senses and said, "No, it's just that the power in this girl is very special, and it feels a bit like the ability of Sado and Inoue." Hearing Ichigo's words, Yoruichi also took a serious look at Poison Peak Lelouka, then nodded to Ichigo and said, "Indeed, it's very similar. And her strength is not too weak." 5. Hearing this, Ichigo also nodded, and then took Yoruichi to the Poison Peak Lelouka. And Lelouka of Poison Peak was here because she wanted to buy something, so she went out for a stroll, but after seeing the bear doll in this toy store, she fell in love with it. Later, after she asked the store manager about the price, Dufun Lelouka became desperate, but Dufun Lelouka did not give up, and kept reducing the price with the store manager. But the manager didn't let go at all, that's why such a side appeared. After Ichigo and Yoruichi came to Poison Peak Lelouka, Ichigo looked at the store manager and asked, "What's wrong?" The store manager started talking about what happened just now when he saw Ichigo. After hearing the incident, Yoruichi said with a smile, "Manager, then you can give this child a little cheaper, anyway, this child is so cute." He smiled and looked at Lelouka, the Poison Peak. Poison Peak Lelouka was very nervous when she saw Ichigo and Yoruichi coming, but after hearing Yoruichi's words, she looked at the store manager with anticipation. But the store manager still refused to say, "No, this can't be cheap, then we will lose money." Advertisement. Hearing this, Dufun Lelouka was disheartened, and Yoruichi said to the store manager when she saw that she was a little disappointed, "Let's buy it for her," and gave him the money. When Dufun Lelouka was about to refuse after hearing Yoruichi's words, Yoruichi put the doll into Dufun Lelouka's arms and said to her, "Let's go, little sister," and dragged Ichigo away. Poison Peak Lelouka wanted to catch up with them and thank them after reacting, but because there were too many people, they couldn't find them anymore. But she thought to herself, "I must thank them when I meet them in the future." After thinking about it, I took the bear doll and went home in a good mood. And while Yoruichi was pulling Ichigo away, Ichigo asked, "You bought it for her so suddenly?" Yoruichi said affirmatively after hearing it, "I just did what you want to do." Hearing this, Ichigo smiled and stopped talking. While Ichigo and Yoruichi were walking around, I suddenly came across Uno Hanari. At this time, Uziwali was trying on a kimono, and seeing Uziwali wearing a white kimono was very beautiful. Yoruichi dropped Ichigo when he saw Uno Hanaritsu and walked towards Uno Hanaritsu. And when he entered the store, Yoruichi also saw Yoruichi and said, "Are you the only one here?" Before Yoruichi could say anything, Ichigo followed. At this time, Yoruichi didn't say anything, and Egg no Hana Lai also understood. "This is the egg," Hana Lai asked Yoruichi. "What do you think of mine?" Then he turned around. Yoruichi immediately praised after seeing it, "Sister Lai, you look good in this color." Egg no Hana is very happy to be praised and said, "Yoruichi, you should see one too." Advertisement. Yoruichi thought about it after hearing it. She really didn't have a kimono in her closet, so Yoruichi also wanted to buy one. Looked at Ichigo and said, "I'll take a look." After that, Ichigo left. Ichigo didn't get angry when he saw this scene, because it was normal. Then Ichigo said, "I'm going to go shopping around here too." Yoruichi also nodded when he heard Ichigo's words. When Ichigo saw it, he shrugged helplessly and went out. Yoruichi and Konohanari started talking about a lot after Ichigo went out. After Ichigo came out, he looked at the tools in the house at several nearby tool points. After coming here, Ichigo saw Muguruma Kensai. It turns out that Muguruma Kensai is looking at a very complete toolbox. Not knowing what Muguruma Kensai was doing here, Ichigo came to Muguruma Kensai and asked, "What are you doing, Kwangshi?" Hearing Ichigo's words, Muguruma Kensai said, "Let's wait until Hirako arrives." After turning around and seeing Ichigo, he said, "It turned out to be Ichigo, I was shocked. Then he wiped the sweat on his forehead. 1.4. Hearing this, Ichigo said to Muguruma Kensai, then buy it. Hearing someone talking behind him frightened Muguruma Kensai, because Muguruma Kensai was looking at something very seriously, so he didn't notice Ichigo's arrival. Then Ichigo said, "What are you doing?" and looked at what was in front of Muguruma Kensai. Muguruma Kensai was a little overwhelmed when he saw Ichigo's discovery and said, "I just want to take a look. After all, we still need to buy this thing in the base to repair something that is easier to repair in our base." Muguruma Kensai finally smiled, a bit. Hearing this, Ichigo nodded, then waved at Muguruma Kensai and went out. Chapter 259, Embarrassment. Then Ichigo met Hirako Shinji and the others, and walked with them to a cafe next to the kimono shop, sat down, had coffee and chatted. And Muguruma Kensai and the others came one after another. Ichigo asked Muguruma Kensai, "Did you buy it?" Hearing Ichigo's questioning, everyone else looked confused, but Hirako Shinji understood the meaning of Ichigo's words. Muguruma Kensai said to Ichigo, "It hasn't been decided yet, let's talk about it later." Hearing this, Ichigo nodded, because Ichigo has already given them all the money, whether they buy it or not is not in Ichigo's consideration. And after waiting for almost half an hour, Yoruichi and the others came out. Why is it so slow? That's because Yadomaru Lisa, the female members of the Kamen Corps, all came to the kimono shop to look at the kimono with Yoruichi and the others when Yoruichi and Uenaru were looking at the kimono, so it was such a waste of time. Seeing that Yoruichi and the others packed small bags and took several, Ichigo and the others were speechless. But nothing was said. Then Yoruichi said to Ichigo, "Ichigo, I bought you a blue one too." After hearing this, Ichigo smiled and nodded. Then after Yoruichi and the others came, they sat here and chatted from time to time. Soon it was night, and Ichigo said to them, "It's almost night, and I have to take Yuzu Shirley and the others to the playground at night. So we're leaving now." Hirako Shinji and the others also understood what Ichigo said after hearing it. "It doesn't matter, we are all friends anyway, isn't it?" 35. Hearing this, Ichigo nodded, and then left first with Yoruichi and Eggflower. The masked army and the others looked at each other and walked outside. Advertisement. Since they were also a little hungry, they decided to go out for a meal and then go back. When Ichigo took Yoruichi and Uno Hanalai back, he said to Uno Hanalai, "Sister Lai, how did you buy it?" After hearing this, Eggjawali said, "I think it's pretty good, no wonder so many people like to go shopping." Hearing this, Yoruichi said, "Indeed, I also fell in love with this matter, how about we go shopping tomorrow, Lai's sister?" Egg no Hanali heard Yoruichi's words and nodded with a smile. "Of course you can." Yoruichi was also very happy to hear that. Ichigo is also very happy to see that the two of them are in a good relationship now. Soon they were at the door. In Ichigo, they pushed the door and entered, and they saw Kurosaki Ishin resting on a reclining chair in the courtyard, but Kurosaki Masaki and Kurosaki sisters were not seen. When Kurosaki Ishin saw Ichigo and the others came back, he got up from the reclining chair and said to them, "How is it going outside, Captain Eggflower?" and he looked at the bags in Ichigo and the others. After hearing Kurosaki Ishin's words, Uno Hanali said to him, "I feel very good, and I have bought a lot of things." Then Ichigo asked, "What about Mom and Yuzu Shirley?" Kurosaki Ishin looked at Ichigo and said, "They're in the house, they don't know what they're doing." 35. Hearing this, Ichigo nodded and went in. Of course Yoruichi and Kono Hanaritsu also followed behind Ichigo. Seeing Ichigo, they all walked towards the house, and Kurosaki Ishin lay back again. But after Ichigo and the others entered, they found no trace of them in the living room, so they put down the clothes they bought and walked upstairs. In the stairwell they heard the words between Kurosaki sisters and Kurosaki Masaki. And Yoruichi said directly to Ichigo, "Ichigo, don't come in as a man." Advertisement. After hearing Yoruichi's words, Ichigo nodded helplessly and said, "Then I'll go to the room to rest for a while." Then he walked towards his room. And after Ichigo entered the room, Yoruichi and Kono Hanariko knocked on the Kurosaki sisters' room door. After the knock on the door, Kurosaki Masaki said, "Who is it?" Yoruichi said, "It's me and Sister Lai, can we come in?" When he heard that it was Yoruichi and Kono Hanaritsu, Kurosaki Masaki said, "Then come in." 99. Then Yoruichi and Egg no Hanaru pushed open the door and entered. After entering, I saw Kurosaki Shirley in a very trendy outfit and Kurosaki Yuzu in a pure white dress, and Kurosaki Masaki watched them. 600. Seeing Yoruichi and Uno Hana, Kurosaki Masaki asked, "How about Yuzu Shirley's clothes?" Yoruichi looked at them both and said, "I think it's cute." Eggjawali said to the two of them, "I think it's cute too." Then he stroked their heads. The Kurosaki sisters were very happy after receiving compliments from Yoruichi and Uno Hanaru. Kurosaki Masaki was also very happy to hear Yoruichi and Omo no Hanazaki compliment them. Yoruichi asked Kurosaki Masaki, "Are you going to the playground dressed like this?" He looked at Kurosaki Masaki suspiciously. Kurosaki Masaki nodded and said, "Yeah." Yoruichi continued, "So you're not afraid of getting dirty?" Yoruichi also followed Yoruichi and said, "Although I haven't been to that place, Yuzu's one should be easier to get dirty, right?" Hearing this, Kurosaki Masaki and Kurosaki sisters both came back to their senses and said, indeed. Then they were a little shy, because they didn't think of such a thing. Chapter 260. Departure. After that, Kurosaki Yuzu changed into a dress similar to Shiarli's. Then Yoruichi made Kurosaki Yuzu and Kurosaki Shiarli stand together and looked at him and said, you two look so cute when you walk together like this. The Kurosaki sisters were very happy to hear Yoruichi's words. Kurosaki Masaki looked at them and said, Yoruichi is right, you are really cute, Ichigo will love it. They were both happy when they heard this. At this time, Kurosaki Shiarli looked at Yoruichi seriously and said, Sister Yoruichi, are you going to the playground with Sister Lai? Hearing Kurosaki Shiarli's question, Kurosaki Yuzu also looked at Yoruichi with anticipation. Hearing this, Yoruichi knew what the Kurosaki sisters and the others were thinking, so she said to the two of them, okay, you two and Ichigo will go tonight. I also stay at home with my parents, 99. Hearing this, the Kurosaki sisters jumped up with joy. When Yoruichi saw how happy they were, he said to them, I'm so happy that Sister Lai and I didn't go. The Kurosaki sisters were stunned when they heard this, but the two of them immediately reacted and said to Yoruichi, no, it's just, that's it. The two of them kept saying, yes, over and over again, but they couldn't say a single reason, and they became even more nervous. Yoruichi patted the heads of the two of them when he saw how anxious they were, and said, okay, it was just a joke just now. Then he smiled at them both. The Kurosaki sisters let out a sigh of relief after hearing this. And Yoruichi continued, you two should go out with Ichigo now, or it will be too late. Hearing this, the two of them immediately checked the time, and it was almost 6 o'clock on the clock. Advertisement. Seeing this time, the two of them immediately said to Yoruichi and Kurosaki Masaki, Mom, Yoruichi-san, we're leaving. Then they walked out of the room and walked towards Ichigo's room. When they came to the door of Ichigo's room, the door was opened just as they were about to knock. It turned out that Ichigo felt their breath in the room, so he came out. After coming out, Ichigo said, okay, it's time for us to go now. Then he took the two of them and walked outside. The Kurosaki sisters, who were walking behind Ichigo, looked at Ichigo's back and immediately ran to both sides of Ichigo, took Ichigo's hand, and smiled at Ichigo. Ichigo wanted to say something when he felt the two of them hug his arms, but he didn't care after seeing their smiles. When they went downstairs 3 times in Ichigo, they saw Yoruichi, Unohana, and Kurosaki Masaki waiting for the three of them. Kurosaki Masaki looked at Ichigo and said, take care of them both, Ichigo. Ichigo nodded when he heard that. And Yoruichi and Unohanaritsu also said something to Ichigo and Kurosaki sisters. Ichigo and the three of them walked out of the house. And Kurosaki Ishin in the yard was still lying on the deck chair at this time. Seeing that he didn't move at all and was still snoring, Ichigo knew that Kurosaki Ishin was asleep, so Ichigo and the three went out without waking up Kurosaki Ishin. And after Ichigo and the others went out, Kurosaki Masaki came next to Kurosaki Ishin, and his eyes were a bit penetrating. Not long after Ichigo and the others went out, they heard Kurosaki Ishin's screams. The Kurosaki sisters were helpless when they heard the sound, but Ichigo was used to it. Advertisement. Then Ichigo said, okay, it's time for us to go to the playground now. He took the two of them's hands and walked towards the playground. The Kurosaki sisters who were pulled up were very happy, and the two of them kept jumping and jumping happily on the road. Soon Ichigo and Kurosaki sisters came to the gate of the playground. The three of them were lucky to see the people queuing, because there were not too many people lining up. And Ichigo said, I'm going to buy a ticket, and the two of you will go and sit next to me. Then he went to line up. The Kurosaki sisters took a seat after hearing Ichigo's words, and the two of them began to discuss which one to play first in a while. After waiting for almost 10 minutes, Ichigo bought a ticket, and then came to the Kurosaki sisters and said, which one do you two want to play first? The Kurosaki sisters had already discussed it, so she said to Ichigo, we're going to play the roller coaster first. Hearing this, Ichigo nodded and said, okay, 35. As the two of them came to the ticket office of the roller coaster, they said, this can't sit in 3 rows. So you, the kings, 2 sit together. I'll sit alone, and sat behind the two of them. Bundle. The Kurosaki sisters were helpless when they saw it, so the two of them had to sit in front of Ichigo and sat up depressed. Seeing that the two of them were not too angry, Ichigo said to them, okay, don't be angry, there are many more games in a minute. 99. Hearing this, the two of them calmed down a bit. Then the roller coaster started, and the two of them were also a little scared, and they were very nervous when they grabbed each other's hands. Ichigo was amused when he saw the two of them, but he didn't laugh. Ichigo laughed immediately after hearing the screams of the Kurosaki sisters.